Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Ben 10 was born as Highbreed royalty with divine Omnitrix? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank. Chapter 1. Blood of the Stars. The spires of the royal Highbreed palace pierced the violet sky like accusing fingers pointing toward distant stars. Crystalline architecture re-caught the last rays of Ogstaka's setting twin suns, fracturing light into prismatic halos that crowned the ancestral seat of power. Within the grand purification chamber, Prince Banata stood motionless, his exoskeletal plates gleaming with ceremonial oils as attendants made final preparations for the ritual that would formally recognize his ascension to adulthood. "Straighten your primary thoracic ridge, Highness," whispered Magister Hulka, the ancient chamberlain whose withered frame belied the authority in his raspy voice. "The Emperor watches." Banata adjusted his posture without acknowledging the instruction, maintaining the regal indifference expected of Highbreed royalty. Through narrowed sensory slits, he observed Emperor Xarius seated upon the immaculate throne. His father's towering form cast long shadows across the assembled court, a living embodiment of Highbreed supremacy. The Emperor's pristine white exoskeleton bore no imperfections, no hint of the genetic degradation slowly consuming their species. Another illusion preserved by royal privilege, Banata thought, careful to keep his face impassive. The young prince had seen his father's private medical chambers, glimpsed the treatments that temporarily masked symptoms of their race's terminal condition. "The ancestral choir awaits your voice, my son." Emperor Xarius's words resonated through the chamber, each syllable precisely modulated to convey both command and ceremonial significance. "Step forward and prove worthy of your lineage." Banata approached the ancient dais where 10 generations of Highbreed royalty had undergone their purification. Ancestral banners depicting genetic lineages hung from vaulted ceilings, their intricate patterns representing the increasingly narrow bloodlines that had led to his birth. The crushing weight of expectation pressed against his chest plates as he ascended 7 crystalline steps. "I present myself for judgment," Banata announced, his voice deeper than most Highbreed his age. "May my genetic sequence honor those who came before." From her separate throne positioned slightly below the Emperor's, Empress Amalda watched with an intensity that transcended ceremonial interest. Unlike her husband's rigid posture, her body language suggested a barely contained anxiety. The Empress had always shown Banata subtle affection forbidden by Highbreed custom. A trait court gossips attributed to her controversial bloodline, rumored to include distant ancestors from conquered worlds. The purification chamber hummed with energy as automated scanners emerged from recessed compartments. Highbreed nobles arranged themselves according to genetic purity percentages, with the most elite purebloods nearest the throne and those bearing even minimal cross-species contamination relegated to distant galleries. Banata had always found the arrangement distasteful, though he never voiced such treasonous thoughts. "Begin the genomic analysis," commanded Grand Purifier Ringmaster Sevix, a spindly Highbreed whose specialized appendages manipulated ancient controls with practiced precision. "May the prince's sequence reveal perfection." Holographic projections materialized around Banata, displaying complex genetic codes that spiraled through the air like luminescent serpents. Court geneticists murmured appreciatively at certain sequences while frowning at others. The prince had undergone countless private analyses throughout his life, each one revealing the same truth. Despite his royal lineage, genetic flaws lurked within his DNA, subtle indicators of the degradation affecting all Highbreed. Albeit manifesting more slowly in the royal line. Emperor Xarius leaned forward, his facial plates contracting to indicate focused attention. "Proceed to the ancestral communion." This was the moment Banata had prepared for since childhood. He extended his arms as ceremonial receptacles rose from the floor, filled with bioreactive gel containing trace elements of his royal predecessor's genetic material. The communion would temporarily interface his genetic structure with those of past rulers, creating a momentary connection to Highbreed history that would theoretically purify any minor imperfections. As his hand submerged into the viscous substance, Banata felt the expected tingling sensation of cellular communication. Then, unexpectedly, a searing pain shot through his right arm. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the ceremonial gel glowed with unusual intensity, pulsing with emerald energy never before witnessed during a purification. "What defilement is this?" demanded Sevix, backing away from his controls. "The readings are impossible." Before anyone could respond, the light coalesced around Banata's wrist, solidifying into an ornate device unlike anything in Highbreed technology. It resembled an ancient gauntlet crafted from materials that shifted between solid matter and pure energy, centered around a dial displaying unfamiliar symbols. "Sabotage!" shouted a voice from among the court officials. "The prince brings alien technology into the sacred chamber." "I have brought nothing," Banata responded, struggling to maintain composure despite his shock. This device manifested from the communion gel itself. Emperor Xarius rose, his massive frame radiating authority and barely contained fury. "Remove it immediately." Banata attempted to detach the device, but it seemed fused to his exoskeleton. Each attempt to remove it caused the symbols to glow more intensely. "Father! Emperor! I cannot!" The chamber erupted in chaos, as nobles backed away from what they perceived as contamination. Royal guards advanced with weapons ready, though hesitant to threaten their prince. Empress Amalda stood as well, positioning herself subtly between her husband and son. "This disruption violates all tradition," Sevix declared, his voice pitched to carry over the growing commotion. "The ceremony must be abandoned and the prince quarantined until this alien artifact can be removed." Banata felt a strange resonance emanating from the device, as though it were attempting communication. Against all Highbreed instinct for xenophobic caution, he focused his attention on the central dial, which began rotating of its own accord. The symbols shifted until one glowed more brightly than the others, a diamond-shaped icon emanating unusual warmth. "My son," Empress Amalda's voice cut through the chaos with unexpected authority. "What do you sense?" Before Banata could respond, the chamber's massive doors slid open, revealing an unexpected arrival. A slender figure stepped through, escorted by diplomatic guards. Though humanoid in general appearance, her partially concealed features and unusual coloration marked her as non-Highbreed, a rarity within the palace's inner sanctums, especially during sacred ceremonies. "The Anodite representative arrives at an unfortunate moment," announced the court chamberlain with poorly disguised disdain. "Lady Gwendia of the Diplomatic Corps requests immediate audience regarding border disputes in the Uxorian sector." All eyes turned briefly toward the newcomer, whose composed demeanor suggested she was unimpressed by the ceremony she had interrupted. Her gaze, however, fixed immediately on the device adorning Banata's wrist, her expression shifting from diplomatic neutrality to undisguised shock. "That's an Omnitrix," she stated, her voice carrying inexplicable authority despite her status as an outsider. "Or something very like it." Emperor Xarius turned his attention to the diplomat, facial plates contracting in displeasure. "Explain yourself, foreign envoy. What knowledge do you possess of this disruption?" Gwendia stepped forward, ignoring protocol that required non-Highbreed reads to maintain a specific distance from royalty. "I've encountered similar technology in my diplomatic travels. If I'm not mistaken, your son has been chosen as a wielder." "Chosen?" Banata questioned, momentarily forgetting court etiquette that discouraged direct engagement with lesser species. "By whom?" Before Gwendia could respond, warning sirens blared throughout the palace. Emergency containment fields activated, sealing the purification chamber from outside access. The Emperor's personal communicator chimed with urgent priority. "Perimeter breach in sectors 7 through 12. Reported Security Commander Rienrassig through the communication system. Multiple explosive devices detected. Possible assassination attempt in progress." The device on Banata's wrist pulsed more intensely, the central dial projecting holographic information that only the prince could fully view from his position. It displayed schematics of the palace alongside thermal readings indicating multi-PLE intruders approaching the ceremonial chamber. "Everyone must evacuate immediately," Banata commanded, his tactical training overriding ceremonial constraints. "Father, mother, take the secure passage behind the ancestral archives." Emperor Xarius bristled at receiving orders from his son. "I will not flee from lesser beings who dare." The argument ended as explosions rocked the chamber's outer walls. Decorative panels collapsed, revealing armored assailants wielding energy weapons inconsistent with known galactic technologies. Their environmental suits concealed all identifying features, making their species indeterminable. "Death to the genetic purists," announced the lead attacker through an electronic voice modulator. "The Highbreed supremacy ends today. Royal guards formed protect IV positions around the Emperor and Empress, but found their weapons ineffective against the attacker's advanced shields. The mysterious assassins fired indiscriminately, their energy blasts leaving scorch marks across ancient ceremonial surfaces and forcing courtiers to seek cover. In the chaos, Banata noticed one assailant targeting the Anodite diplomat, who had created some form of energy bar rear to protect nearby wounded Highbreed civilians. Despite her apparent abilities, the concentrated fire would soon overwhelm her defenses. Without conscious decision, the prince slammed his palm against the device on his wrist. Emerald light enveloped his body as genetic reconfiguration occurred at unprecedented speed. His Highbreed form dissolved into pure energy before restructuring into Samet. Hing entirely different, a humanoid composed of living flame, magma-like cracks running across a body that radiated intense heat. "What is this abomination?" gasped Sevix, cowering behind a fallen column. "The prince has become alien." Banata had no time to contemplate his transformation. Acting on instinct that felt simultaneously foreign and natural, he projected streams of concentrated flame toward the attackers threatening Gwendia. The intense heat melted through their shields instantly, forcing them backward. "Get down," he shouted to the courtiers, his voice now carrying a crackling quality like burning wood. "I can't control this fully." The transformed prince moved with shocking speed, each step leaving smoldering footprints across the ceremonial floor. He intercepted a blast meant for his mother, absorbing the energy before redirecting it as an intensified fireball that consumed 3 attackers' weapons. "The Highbreed prince has accessed pyronite genetics," one assassin communicated to others. "Priority target identified. Concentrate all fire on the flame bearer." As multiple weapons locked onto Banata, he discovered another aspect of his transformation. Concentrating his internal energy, he generated a nova-like pulse that disrupted targeting systems and temporarily blinded organic eyes. Using the confusion, he began systematically disarming attackers, careful to delayed his flame temperature to incapacitate without killing. From behind an overturned ceremonial basin, Gwendia observed with analytical precision. "He's instinctively accessing pyronite abilities that typically require years of training," she murmured to herself, recording observations through a subtle device concealed within her diplomatic attire. "The interface is unprecedented." Emperor Tsar Yuz watched his transformed son with an unreadable expression. The prince, now an embodiment of alien genetics that should have disgusted any true Highbreed, fought with unexpected effectiveness, protecting not just the royal family but all present in the chamber regardless of genetic status. When the last attacker fell, Banata stood amid smoldering debris, his flaming form casting dancing shadows across ancient walls. Court members emerged slowly from hiding places, their expressions divided between fear, disgust, and reluctant admiration. "How do I return to my true form?" Banata asked, directing the question toward Gwendia, who alone seemed unsurprised by his transformation. The diplomat approached cautiously, maintaining respectful distance from his heat. "The device should have a timing mechanism or manual override. Focus your intention on reverting." Following her suggestion, Banata concentrated on his original form. The device emitted a distinctive tone before bathing him in transformative light once more. Within moments, he stood as a Highbreed again, though the device remained firmly attached to his wrist. Emperor Zarius approached slowly, Imperial guards flanking him protectively despite the apparent end of immediate danger. "What have you become?" he asked, voice unusually quiet. "I remain your son," Banata responded, standing tall despite exhaustion from the transformation. "And evidently something more, though I understand it no better than you." "The sacred ceremony is defiled," intoned Sevix, emerging from hiding with theatrical outrage. "The prince has willingly embraced xenogenetic corruption. He must be sequestered until this contamination can be purged." Before the emperor could respond, Empress Amalda stepped forward with uncharacteristic boldness. "My husband, our son has saved countless lives today, including our own. Perhaps we should consider that this device appeared during the communion with our ancestors for a reason." "Blasphemy," hissed Sevix, though he quieted immediately under the emperor's cold stare. Court scientist Zentridi, whose position had always placed him in conflict with the more traditional Sevix, approached with scientific curiosity evident in his stance. The transformation appears to have granted access to pyronite biological capabilities without permanent genetic alteration. Preliminary scans suggest the Prince's hybrid genetics remain intact when not transformed. An interesting observation, noted Gwendia, causing several courtiers to recoil at her unsolicited contribution. On my homeworld, there are legends of a device created by the Galvan first thinker Azimuth, the Omnitrix, designed to promote interspecies understanding by allowing the user to experience life as other sentient beings. Impossible, Zentridi responded, though with curiosity rather than dismissal. Galvan technology, while advanced, could not interface with hybrid biology given our genetic protections. Banata examined the device more carefully now that immediate danger had passed. This seems different from the legends. The symbols aren't consistent with Galvan design language, and the interface appears to be responding to my thoughts rather than mechanical manipulation. A divine Omnitrix, whispered Empress Amalda, drawing surprised attention. When questioned by her husband's sharp glance, she continued reluctantly. There are ancient texts in the Forbidden Archives speaking of cosmic artifacts that choose bearers during times of species-wide crisis. Emperor Xarius surveyed the damaged chamber, the injured courtiers, and his transformed son with calculated consideration. After a weighty silence that held the court in suspense, he rendered judgment. The prince will be isolated within the Royal Scientific Division for thorough examination of this device. Lady Gwendia will provide all diplomatic information regarding similar technologies encountered in her travels. The assassination attempt will be investigated separately from the transformation incident, and the purification ceremony, prompted Sevix, postponed indefinitely, the Emperor declared, silencing objections with a dismissive gesture. Clear the chamber. Attend to the wounded. Security protocols remain at highest alert. As the court dispersed under Royal Guard supervision, Banata found himself standing near the Onodit diplomat whose timely arrival had provided crucial information. You recognized this immediately, he observed quietly, maintaining appropriate distance despite his curiosity. Your reaction suggested more than diplomatic knowledge. Gwendia's expression remained carefully neutral, though her eyes, startlingly violet against her pale complexion, studied him with undisguised interest. Let's just say I've encountered similar artifacts in my travels. Though this one appears uniquely attuned to your specific biology. You created an energy barrier during the attack, Banata continued, ignoring protocol that discouraged acknowledging aliens' abilities. Anodite capabilities are not mentioned in our diplomatic briefings. A subtle smile crossed her features. Perhaps your briefings are incomplete, Highness. Just as our understanding of this device appears to be. Before Banata could respond, royal guards surrounded him, creating a protective formation that simultaneously separated him from the diplomat. As they escorted him toward the scientific division, he glanced back to see Gwendia watching thoughtfully, her form briefly outlined by an almost imperceptible violet aura that vanished when she noticed his attention. The Royal Scientific Division occupied an isolated wing of the palace complex, its architecture favoring function over the ornate aesthetics that dominated ceremonial spaces. Banata sat motionless within a specialized containment field as research specialists scrutinized the device attached to his wrist. 3 hours of continuous scanning had yielded minimal results. The composition defies analysis, reported Chief Researcher Zentridi, his frustration evident despite hybrid emotional restraint. It appears simultaneously organic and mechanical, with elements that register as neither. Emperor Xarius observed from beyond the containment barrier, his posture betraying no emotion. Could surgical removal be attempted? Banata suppressed his instinctive objection, maintaining princely composure despite the disturbing suggestion. The device had already defied multiple removal attempts. Unadvisable, Zentridi responded. Preliminary simulations S. August the artifact has integrated with the prince's circulatory and nervous systems on a quantum level. Forced removal would likely prove fatal. From her position near the laboratory entrance, Empress Amalda stepped forward. Perhaps we approach this incorrectly. If the device chose our son, attempting to reject it may be counterproductive. You suggest embracing alien contamination. The Emperor's voice remained controlled, but those familiar with royal dynamics recognized dangerous undertones. Explain your reasoning, Empress. Amalda gestured toward the restricted information terminal she had brought with her. I've accessed historical records from the Forbidden Archives, with appropriate clearance, she added, anticipating objection. There are 27 recorded instances of semi-LAR devices appearing throughout our history, always during periods of significant crisis. This revelation created visible consternation among the scientific team. Zentridi approached the terminal with poorly concealed excitement. Such records were never made available to the scientific division. Because they contradict our established narrative of uninterrupted genetic supremacy, Empress Amalda stated with unexpected boldness. Each appearance coincided with periods of genetic stagnation or environmental crisis that threatened our species' continuation. Emperor Xerius's facial plates contracted in a rare display of surprise. You've been researching this specifically. For how long? The Empress met her husband's gaze directly. Since the first indicators of widespread genetic degradation appeared 15 cycles ago. The historical pattern is unmistakable. The appearance of transformation artifacts preceded each major evolutionary adaptation in our species' development. Banata processed this information with growing fascination. His mother had always demonstrated greater interest in historical research than most hybrid females, but he had never suspected the extent of her unorthodox knowledge. The revelation positioned her actions in a new light, including her consistent encouragement of his untraditional interest in xenobiology. The purification chamber attack complicates matters, Emperor Xerius noted, momentarily setting aside his wife's historical revelations. Initial analysis confirms the assassins used hybrid technology incorporating elements from multiple species, including some compatible with hybrid physiology, suggesting inside knowledge of our biological vulnerabilities, Banata concluded, demonstrating the strategic thinking that had distinguished his military education. The timing during a sacred ceremony further implies cultural intelligence beyond most non-hybrid understanding. Zentridi manipulated holographic displays showing recovered assassin equipment. More concerning is this component, recovered from their communication devices. The isotopic signature matches materials exclusive to Zentraxian mining operations in our border territories. The same territories under dispute in Lady Gwendia's diplomatic mission, observed the Emperor with narrowed sensory receptors. An unlikely coincidence, or deliberate misdirection, countered Banata, surprising himself with his instinctive defense of the diplomat. The components could have been planted to implicate the border worlds. The containment field surrounding He Prince suddenly fluctuated as the device on his wrist activated without prompting. Symbols raced across its surface before projecting a three-dimensional star chart into the laboratory space. Fascinating, murmured Zentridi. It appears to be responding to regional designations in our conversation. The projection zoomed toward a specific sector near hybrid-controlled space, highlighting an uncharted planetoid with atmospheric composition data scrolling alongside the image. These coordinates aren't in our navigational database, noted a junior researcher, checking against official records. Banata studied the projection with growing certainty. The device is communicating. This location contains something relevant to our situation. Or lures you into a trap, suggested his father with typical hybrid caution. Before further discussion could develop, the laboratory doors opened to admit an unexpected visitor. Lady Gwendia entered, escorted by royal guards whose body language suggested reluctant compliance with diplomatic protocols rather than voluntary accommodation. Forgive the intrusion, Majesties, she began, performing the minimally acceptable genuflection required by hybrid court etiquette. But information has emerged regarding the assassination attempt that may prove relevant to your investigation of the artifact. Emperor Xerius signaled permission to continue, though his posture communicated clear distrust. The weapon's signature matches technology recently stolen from a research facility in the Andromeda boundary region, Gwendia explained, Octiva. A small holographic projector that displayed technical specifications. The facility was jointly operated by Galvan and Petrosipian scientists studying transformation technology derived from ANSI. Artifacts similar to what Prince Banata now wears. Zentridi compared the specifications to recovered components, reluctantly confirming compatibility. The correlation is statistically significant. You suggest these assassins targeted my son specifically because of this device, which hadn't yet appeared when they planned their attack. Emperor Xerius questioned skeptically. Gwendia's expression remained professionally neutral. I suggest they targeted him because they somehow knew he would receive it. The attack was timed precisely to coincide with the purification ceremony, when the prince's genetic structure would be most receptive to interface with ancestral material. The implication hung in the air, that someone had predicted or engineered the device's appearance. How would you possess such specific information about transformation technology, Lady Gwendia? Banata asked directly, studying her reactions with newfound suspicion. The diplomat's composure wavered momentarily. My credentials as presented to your court are accurate but incomplete. I serve as diplomatic liaison, yes, but also as an investigator for the Plumbers. This revelation caused immediate tension. The Plumbers, an intergalactic peacekeeping organization, were viewed with suspicion by Highbreed leadership, who considered their multi-species composition and interventionist policies threats to sovereign authority. A deception that violates diplomatic protocol, Emperor Xerius observed coldly. Grounds for immediate expulsion from Highbreed territory. A necessary omission given recent technological thefts targeting transformation artifacts throughout the galaxy, Gwendia countered. The Plumbers have tracked 3 similar devices that disappeared from secure facilities within the past stellar cycle. All evidence pointed toward this sector. Banata studied the star chart still projected by his device, noting correlations with regions Gwendia mentioned. The coordinates match areas of reported theft activity. Coincidence? Or manipulation? Questioned Zentridi, his scientific skepticism evident. The device on Banata's wrist activated again, this time displaying a sequence of genetic codes that caused visible shock among the scientific team. That's impossible, whispered a senior geneticist. Those are corrective sequences for our most critical degradation markers. Empress Esamalda stepped closer to the projection, her scientific background, unusual for Highbreed females of royal status, evident in her analytical approach. Not corrective, adaptive. These represent potent IAL evolutionary pathways that preserve core Highbreed characteristics while incorporating beneficial aspects of compatible species. Genetic contamination, hissed a traditionalist researcher. Genetic salvation, countered Zentridi. These sequences could potentially address our species' terminal decline without sacrificing essential Highbreed attributes. Emperor Xerius studied the projection. With unreadable expression before turning toward his son. You believe this device offers authentic assistance rather than xenogenetic corruption? Banata considered carefully before responding, that his answer would significantly influence royal policy. I believe it represents an evolutionary opportunity we cannot afford to dismiss without investigation. Our species faces extinction our genetic stagnation within 3 generations. Traditional approaches have failed to reverse degradation. And your transformation, do you find it corrupting? The Emperor's question carried personal significance beneath its political implications. I experience the Pyronite form not as corruption but as expansion, Banata answered truthfully. My consciousness remained intact while accessing different physical capabilities and instincts. The experience was enlightening. Gwendia observed this exchange with careful attention, her diplomatic training allowing her to recognize the historic significance of a Highbreed royal acknowledging potential benefits in xenogenetic exposure. After prolonged consideration, Emperor Xerius reached a decision. The containment protocols will be modified. Prince Banata will continue scientific evaluation of the device, but with greater operational latitude. Lady Gwendia will provide all Plumber intelligence regarding similar artifacts, under supervision. The assassination investigation continues separately. And the coordinates? Prompted Banata, gesturing toward the star chart. Preliminary exploration only, his father responded firmly. A small scientific expedition under heavy guard. You will not participate until we better understand this device's capabilities and limitations. Banata accepted this compromise with appropriate deference, though his thoughts already explored potential methods for ensuring his involvement in the expedition. The device, which he had begun thinking of as the divine Omnitrix based on his mother's historical reference, seemed to pulse in synchronization with his planning. As the meeting concluded and attendees dispersed, Empress Amalda approached her son privately. You handled that well. Your father fears change, but recognizes necessity when properly presented. You've studied these artifacts for years, Banata observed. You anticipated something like this might happen. The Empress's Facial plates shifted in the subtle expression that had always indicated affection despite Highbreed emotional restraint. I hoped. Our species faces extinction unless we evolve beyond our self-imposed limitations. Traditional factions would rather die pure than live through adaptation. And you? He questioned carefully. I would rather my son live to rule a thriving civilization than inherit a dying one, she answered simply. The divine Omnitrix offers possibilities I've only theorized. Use it wisely. As she departed, Banata noticed Gwendia lingering near the laboratory entrance, ostensibly reviewing documentation but clearly awaiting opportunity for private conversation. When research staff focused on equipment recalibration, he approached with deliberate casualness. Your arrival, with critical information demonstrates suspiciously fortuitous timing, Lady Gwendia, he observed quietly. The diplomat smiled slightly. As does your transformation into exactly the right form to counter the assassination attempt. Perhaps coincidence isn't the appropriate framework for understanding these events. You know more about this device than you've shared publicly, Banata stated rather than asked. As do you, she countered. You've adapted to its presence with remarkable speed for someone experiencing unprecedented xenogenetic transformation. Their conversation paused as a research assistant approached with testing equipment. When privacy resumed, Gwendia continued in a lower voice. The plumbers have monitored unusual energy signatures in this sector for months. Somethi Ing is collecting transformation technology for unknown purposes. And you suspect Highbreed involvement. Banata kept his tone neutral despite the accusatory nature of his question. I suspected Highbreed targeting, she clarified. The pattern of thefts suggested someone was searching for technology specifically compatible with your species' unique biology. Today's events support that theory, though not in the way I anticipated. The device on Banata's wrist illuminated subtly, as though responding to their conversation. Both noticed but neither acknowledged the reaction. The coordinates it provided, you recognize them? He asked. Gwendia hesitated before responding. They align with regions where similar energy signatures have been detected. The plumbers lost an investigative team in that vicinity 3 months ago. No wreckage was ever recovered. Yet you came here alone. Who said I came alone? Her expression suggested layers of operational security beyond her diplomatic cover. The plumbers maintain careful presence throughout this sector, especially given the Highbreed genetic crisis. Banata's sensory receptors narrowed at this admission of knowledge that should have remained strictly confidential. Our internal biological concerns are not matters for foreign intervention. They become intergalactic concerns when a species with Highbreed military capabilities faces extinction, she responded evenly. Historical precedent suggests dying empires rarely depart peacefully. Before Banata could formulate an appropriately diplomatic yet cutting response, alarms blared throughout the laboratory complex. Security screens activated automatically, displaying feeds from the palace perimeter where unusual atmospheric disturbances had triggered defense systems. Unidentified aerial anomalies approaching from multiple vectors, announced the security AI. Energy signatures inconsistent with registered transport technology. Zentridi accessed more detailed scans. His agitation evident as results appeared. These readings match components recovered from the assassination force. They've returned with greater numbers. Banata moved toward the command interface. Royal authority overriding security protocols that would have restricted access. Activate planetary defense grid. Alert all military installations within regional response range. The palace shielding systems are experiencing targeted disruption, reported a security technician. Something is interfering with our coordination frequencies. Emperor Xerius's voice overrode all communication channels. All Royal Guard units to defensive positions. Scientific Division personnel evacuate to secure bunkers. Prince Banata will be escorted to the Imperial safe room immediately. Guards moved to implement this order, surrounding the prince with practiced efficiency. Banata, however, remained focused on tactical displays showing the palace's increasingly vulnerable position. These aren't conventional attack patterns, he observed. They're creating specific access corridors through our defensive grid. Gwendia studied the displays with professional assessment. Precision strikes targeting, shield generators and communication nodes. They're isolating the scientific wing specifically. The realization crystallized simultaneously for both of them. They're coming for the divine Omnitrix, Banata stated. raising his wrist where the device pulsed with increasing intensity. And they knew exactly where to find it, added Gwendia, her diplomatic composure giving way to combat readiness. Violet energy sparked subtly around her fingertips as she accessed capabilities beyond her official diplomatic role. Royal guards attempted to usher Banata toward evacuation routes, but he resisted. Defensive withdrawal is exactly what they anticipate. We need unexpected countermeasures. What do you propose, Highness? Asked the guard commander, professional enough to recognize the prince's tactical insight despite protocol requiring royal protection. Banata studied the device on his wrist, which now cycled through various alien silhouettes as though offering options. I believe I was NTED this transformation capability for precisely such circumstances. Withdrawing without engaging wastes strategic advantage. The Emperor's orders, began the commander. Reflect conventional thinking against conventional threats. Banata interrupted. This situation demands adaptation. Gwendia stepped forward. If I may suggest, Your Highness, your transformation capabilities combined with MY energy manipulation could create unexpected resistance while evacuation proceeds for non-combatants. The laboratory shook as explosions impacted nearby sections. Security feeds showed hostile force breaching outer defenses with alarming efficiency. Make your decision quickly, Prince, prompted Zentridi, already securing critical research data. These attackers have neutralized defenses that should have been impenetrable. Banata's royal upbringing had prepared him for command decisions under pressure. Weighing options with practiced efficiency, he reached his conclusion. Scientific personnel evacuate as ordered. Commander, divide your force. Half escort researchers to safety, half remain as tactical support. Lady Gwendia and I will engage directly to disrupt their operational momentum. Though clearly conflicted between competing authorities, the guard commander recognized sound strategy. Acknowledged, Highness, but I must insist on maintaining minimum protective detail around you. Acceptable, Banata agreed, already examining the device's interface with greater intentionality. As the laboratory reorganized according to his instructions, he addressed Gwendia directly. Your plumber training presumably includes combat experience beyond diplomatic posturing. A subtle smile crossed her features as violet energy now openly coalesced around her hands. I qualified top of my combat class, Highness. And anodite capabilities offer certain tactical advantages conventional training doesn't cover. Banata activated the divine Omnitrix with newfound confidence, selecting a form different from his previous transformation. Emerald light enveloped him as his hybrid physiology reconfigured into something crystalline and angular, a Petrosapian form whose reflective body could both absorb and redirect energy. Diamond Head, he stated, the name coming instinctively to his transformed consciousness. Appropriate for current tactical requirements. Gwendia raised an eyebrow at his immediate adaptation to the new form. You're accessing transformation knowledge much faster than typical Omnitrix users. Interesting. The crystalline being that was now Prince Banata flexed diamond hard limbs experimentally. This form feels structurally intuitive. The defensive applications are immediately apparent. Before further discussion could develop, the laboratory's forced doors buckled under concentrated energy bombardment. As they collapsed inward, attackers in advanced tactical gear poured through the opening, weapons targeting the transformed prince with unsettling precision. Surrender the divine Omnitrix, Highbreed Prince, commanded the lead attacker, voice distorted through electronic modification. Its power was never meant for your kind. Banata responded by transmuting his arm into a crystalline shield that deflected the first barrage of energy blasts back toward the attackers, scattering their formation. Simultaneously, Gwendia projected violet energy barriers that further disrupted their coordinated assault. Your combat effectiveness exceeds diplomatic parameters, Banata observed as they fought side by side, his crystalline body RBing attacks while her energy constructs entrapped attackers. As does your adaptation to xenogenetic forms, she countered, redirecting an explosive projectile through an energy portal that redeployed it among the attacker's own ranks. For a species supposedly repulsed by alien contact, you seem remarkably comfortable in non-hybrid form. The crystalline prince generated diamond shards that pinned several attackers to nearby walls without causing lethal injury. Perhaps traditional assumptions about hybrid capabilities require revision. Their impromptu partnership demonstrated unexpected synergy, his defensive capabilities complementing her offensive energy manipulation. Royal Guards, initially skeptical of fighting alongside an alien diplomat, quickly adapted to incorporate her C-AP abilities into their tactical approach. As the battle progressed through laboratory sectors, Banata noticed something unusual about their attackers. Despite advanced technology and coordinated tactics, they appeared to be avoiding lethal force against Highbreed defenders while simultaneously targeting scientific equipment with precision destruction. They're not just after the divine Omnitrix, he realized aloud. They're systematically destroying all research related to it. Gwendia formed energy tendrils that extracted hidden devices from seemingly disabled attackers. Information warfare. They're uploading data while purging your systems. A particularly powerful blast separated them momentarily. When Banata regained visual contact, he witnessed Gwendia facing 3 attackers simultaneously. Her energy barriers weakening under sustained assault. Without conscious thought, he projected his crystalline form between her and an incoming energy lance, absorbing impact that would have caused serious injury. Unnecessary risk, Highness, she commented, though her expression suggested appreciation beyond diplomatic formality. Tactical necessity, he countered. Your capabilities remain essential to our defense strategy. The momentary exchange preceded a coordinated counterattack that drove remaining hostiles into retreat. As they withdrew, their leader activated some form of dimensional technology that created swirling portals through which they escaped, taking both their wounded and most of their equipment with them. As silence settled over the damaged laboratory, Banata's transformation timed out automatically, returning him to Highbreed form. The divine Omnitrix recalibrated with soft pulses of light, apparently recharging after extensive use. A strategic withdrawal rather than defeat, he observed. Analyzing the attack pattern. They'll return better prepared. Agreed, Gwendia responded, her professional demeanor returning as she deactivated her energy manifestations. But they've revealed crucial tactical information through their methods. Royal Guards secured the area as Emperor Xarius arrived with additional forces, his imposing presence commanding immediate attention. He surveyed the destruction before focusing on his son with an expression that combined relief, concern, and something approaching respect. You disobeyed direct orders, the Emperor stated without preamble. I adapted to unforeseen circumstances, Banata responded respectfully but without apology. Conventional withdrawal would have surrendered both tactical advantage and critical research data. Emperor Xarius studied the damaged laboratory, noting the non-lethal restraint methods evident in how attackers had been neutralized. Your transformed combat methods demonstrate unusual restraint. For Highbreed tactical doctrine, the Petrosapian form offers precision capabilities that proved advantageous, Banata explained, carefully avoiding direct challenge to TR. Additional Highbreed military philosophy that typically favored overwhelming force. Capturing enemies for interrogation provides intelligence advantages. The Emperor's attention shifted to Gwendia, whose combat capabilities had clearly exceeded diplomatic parameters. Your intervention proved beneficial. Lady Plumber. She accepted the tacit acknowledgement with appropriate diplomatic humility. The Plumbers stand ready to assist against threats targeting transformation technology, Your Majesty. Today's attack confirms external forces are actively working to prevent Highbreed access to such capabilities. The question remains, why? Interjected Zentridi, emerging from a secure data center with preliminary analysis. Initial findings suggest the attackers downloaded extensive information on about the divine Omnitrix while simultaneously destroying our research infrastructure. They seek to understand it while preventing us from doing the same, Banata concluded. The coordinates provided by the device likely indicate the source of this technology, or perhaps those responsible for its creation. Emperor Xarius made a decisive gesture that silenced all other conversations. The Royal expedition to these coordinates will proceed immediately rather than after extended analysis. Prince Banata will accompany the mission as both subject matter expert and tactical asset given his transformation capabilities. This unexpected reversal of previous caution generated surprised murmurs among court officials present. The Emperor silenced them with a stern glance before continuing. Gwendia will also join the expedition as plumber liaison, given her demonstrated knowledge of similar artifacts and proven combat effectiveness. The diplomat concealed her surprise behind professional composure. I am honored to accept, Your Majesty, though I should inform my superiors of this development. Restricted communication protocols will apply, the Emperor clarified. Your involvement will be documented through appropriate diplomatic channels, but operational details remain classified at highest imperial levels. As arrangements proceeded for immediate expedition preparation, the Anata found opportunity to speak privately with Gwendia while retrieving specialized equipment. Your acceptance came rather quickly for someone ostensibly requiring plumber authorization, he observed. She adjusted equipment with practiced efficiency while responding. My operational parameters include significant discretionary authority when investigating transformation technology threats. Convenient, he noted dryly. Necessary, she countered. The divine Omnitrix represents technology beyond even Galvan understanding. Its appearance specifically to Highbreed royalty during your species' genetic crisis cannot be coincidental. Banata considered this assessment while examining the device that had irrevocably altered his existence. You believe it was created specifically for this purpose? To address Highbreed genetic degradation? I believe answers lie at the coordinates it provided, she replied diplomatically. Though I would caution against assuming benevolent intention without verification. Some entities in the universe consider extinction a natural evolutionary conclusion. Their conversation ended as expedition preparations intensified. Within hours, a specialized research vessel prepared for departure from the Royal Spaceport, its modified design accommodating both scientific requirements and enhanced security protocols. Emperor Zarius personally oversaw final arrangements, his attention to detail reflecting the mission's unprecedented importance. The future of our species may depend on what you discover, he told his son during final briefing. Remember your royal responsibilities while exploring these new capabilities. Banata recognized the complicated emotions behind his father's formal demeanor, traditional Highbreed distrust of alien influence erring with desperate hope for species salvation. I remain Highbreed in essence regardless of physical form, father. The divine Omnitrix expands our possibilities without diminishing our identity. He Emperor studied his son with uncharacteristic openness. Perhaps that perspective itself represents evolution beyond traditional Highbreed thinking. As boarding commenced, Empress Amalda approached her son away from official observers. Your father would never admit it, but he recognizes the significance of your adaptation to transformation. His generation was taught that genetic purity represented strength. Your generation must learn that adaptability ensures survival. You've prepared for this possibility, Banata realized, studying his mother with newfound appreciation for her subtle influence throughout his education. Her expression softened momentarily. I've hoped for it. The historical records suggest previous transformation artifacts appeared to Highbreed who ultimately guided significant evolutionary transitions. Your royal blood carries genetic markers from each of those historical figures, perhaps predisposing you for selection. This revelation suggested layers of predetermined destiny that conflicted with Banata's understanding of his own existence. Before he could request elaboration, final boarding calls necessitated their separation. Trust your instincts, the Empress advised as they parted. The divine Omnitrix chose you for reasons beyond political expediency. Aboard the expedition vessel, Banata found himself in command of an unusual assembly, Highbreed scientists uncomfortable with alien contact, royal guards maintaining traditional xenophobic caution, and a non-Highbreed diplomat whose capabilities had already upended numerous cultural assumptions. As the ship broke planetary orbit and prepared for faster-than-light travel toward mysterious coordinates, he contemplated the unprecedented changes occurring within his previously structured existence. The divine Omnitrix pulsed gently against his wrist, its emerald light seeming to synchronize with his thoughtful contemplation. Whatever awaited at those coordinates would irreversibly transform not just his understanding of himself, but potentially the future of the entire Highbreed civilization. From her assigned quarters, Gwendia observed the young prince through monitoring systems, her expression thoughtful as she composed encrypted communications to Plumber Command. The message contained detailed observations of the divine Omnitrix's capabilities along with an assessment of its bearer. Subject demonstrates unprecedented adaptation to transformation technology. Integration rate exceeds all previous Omnitrix users by significant margins. Genetic compatibility suggests deliberate design parameters rather than coincidental activation. Recommend continued close observation as transformation capabilities develop. Prince Banata shows potential to transcend traditional Highbreed delimitations in ways that could significantly alter galactic power dynamics. After transmission through secure channels, she focused her attention on the approaching coordinates, violet energy brief. Li manifesting around her fingers as she prepared for whatever awaited them at their mysterious destination. The divine Omnitrix had chosen its bearer, now they would discover why. Chapter 2. Heart of Many Species. Space folded like origami around the Highbreed vessel immaculate purpose as it completed its final translocation jump. Stars smeared into prismatic ribbons before resolving into the familiar speckled darkness of normal space. Looming ahead, Concordia Station rotated with deceptive serenity, a massive wheel-shaped construct of gleaming metal and crystalline viewports that served as the galaxy's preeminent neutral diplomatic ground. Approaching final vector, announced Navigation Officer Severin, her voice maintaining the crisp professionalism expected of Highbreed military person. Despite the unprecedented nature of their mission. Station Authority requests identification and delegation manifest. Banata stood on the command deck, the divine Omnitrix pulsing softly against his wrist as though sensing their arrival at significant coordinates. 3 standard days of space travel had provided minimal insight into the device's origins, but considerable evidence of its continuing integration with his biology. Each transformation had come more naturally than the last, with decreasing recovery time between uses. Transmit diplomatic authorization codes, he ordered, study ing the approaching station with tactical assessment born from years of military education. Maintain standard approach protocols, but alert security teams to prepare for covert deployment if necessary. The prince had abandoned traditional Highbreed robes for a streamlined uniform designed to accommodate his transformations while still displaying royal insignia. The modification had scandalized traditionalists aboard, who viewed any concession to practical necessity over ceremonial tradition as cultural degradation. Banata had silenced objections with characteristic efficiency. Effectiveness supersedes appearance. Results determine value, not adherence to obsolete formalities. Concordia Station acknowledges royal delegation status, reported communications specialist Zentral. We've been assigned priority docking at the diplomatic ring, berth 17. Unusual accommodation for Highbreed vessels. Not unexpected, observed Gwendia, entering the command deck with precise timing. Had suggested monitoring of their approach. The Anodite diplomat had maintained professional distance throughout the journey, though her violet eyes followed the prince's activities with undisguised interest. The summit agenda reorganized entirely when news of the divine Omnitrix reached participating governments. Banata turned toward her with narrowed sensory receptors. How did information spread so quickly? Our departure was classified at highest imperial levels. A slight smile crossed her features. Highness, the transformation of royal Highbreed genetics represents the most significant power shift in this galactic sector in 3 centuries. Did you genuinely believe it would remain confidential once we left Ogstaka? Before he could respond, the station's massive docking arms extended toward their vessel. Automated systems guiding the final approach with mechanical precision. Through viewports, they observed the astonishing diversity of ships already docked, everything from Cr. Eastaline Petrosapian transports to organic Florana vessels whose living hulls pulsed with photosynthetic energy. 57 distinct species represented, noted science officer Zentridi, studying scanner data with poorly concealed fascination despite traditional Highbreed xenophobia. Many historically hostile toward each other. The Omnitrix rumors have drawn unprecedented attendance. RPR, ovided convenient opportunity for espionage and sabotage, countered Security Chief Rienrassig, whose militant stance reflected conventional Highbreed military doctrine. Each alien vessel represents potential threat. Banata absorbed both perspectives without comment, his royal training having emphasized weighing multiple viewpoints before reaching conclusion. The divine Omnitrix had accelerated this balanced approach, each transformation providing experiential insight into non-Highbreed perspectives that theoretical education could never match. We proceed as planned, he decided as docking. Mechanisms engaged with precision hydraulics. Diplomatic protocols will be observed without compromise to security requirements. Lady Gwendia will accompany me as cultural liaison given her experience with interspecies negotiation. Rienrassig's facial plates contracted in poorly concealed disapproval. The Anodite's presence at your side sends problematic diplomatic signals, Highness. Traditio. Null protocol requires Highbreed royalty maintain appropriate species separation during formal functions. Traditional protocol assumes traditional circumstances, Banata responded evenly. The Divin Omnitrix renders such separation philosophically inconsistent and tactically disadvantageous. The security chief accepted this logic despite personal reservations, his military discipline overriding cultural prejudice. Additional security measures have been implemented as ordered, including emergency extraction protocols should circumstances deteriorate. Docking completed with a resonant meta LLIC thrum that vibrated through the hull. Atmospheric seals engaged as pressure equalized between vessel and station. The prince moved toward the primary airlock, Royal Guard formation automatically establishing around him despite his repeatedly demonstrated ability to defend himself through transformation. Station sensors will detect the divine Omnitrix regardless of concealment attempts, Gwen. DYA observed quietly as they prepared for disembarkation. Its energy signature is distinctive. Concealment was never the objective, Banata responded, adjusting ceremonial aspects of his modified uniform. Strategic revelation under controlled circumstances provides diplomatic advantage. She studied him with analytical interest. Your approach differs significantly from traditional Highbreed isolationism. Transformation effects extend beyond physical alteration, it seems. Experience shapes perspective, he acknowledged without elaboration, the airlock cycling open to reveal their welcoming committee. Concordia Station's diplomatic reception chamber represented architectural compromise across dozens of distinct biological requirements. Gravitational generators created localized FEL-DS accommodating everything from high-gravity species to those naturally buoyant in gaseous environments. Temperature varied by sector, with heat-loving pyronites comfortably occupying regions that old flash freeze methane-based lifeforms. The overall effect combined engineering brilliance with barely controlled chaos. Prince Banata of the Highbreed Empire, announced Station Director Xylene. Her Uxorite features revealing neither approval nor disapproval as the royal delegation entered. The Diplomatic Congress welcomes your historic participation in these proceedings. The assembled delegates represented nearly 60 distinct species, their reactions to Highbreed presence ranging from diplomatic neutrality to barely concealed hostility. Many shifted uncomfortably, historical grievance against Highbreed expansionism creating tension that permeated the chamber despite formal protocols. Banata performed the minimum acknowledgement gesture required by royal protocol, his posture conveying appropriate dignity without the excessive superiority that characterized traditional Highbreed diplomatic conduct. The Highbreed Empire acknowledges the Congress's recognition and extends reciprocal diplomatic courtesy to assembled governments. Director Xylene's crystalline eyes flickered briefly toward the device visible on the prince's wrist before returning to formal neutrality. As requested, today's agenda begins with the Technology Exchange Forum, followed by border sovereignty negotiations, and concluding with the Security Council regarding recent terrorist activities across multiple jurisdictions. The structured formality dissolved as delegates moved toward assigned sectors, informal conversation clusters forming as they navigated the complex chamber. Banata noted with interest how different species automatically separated into alliance groups despite theoretical diplomatic equality. Galvan and Chimera sui generis representatives watching with particular interest, murmured Gwendia. Her diplomatic training evident in subtle observational skills. Both species claim historical connection to Omnitrix development, as do celestial sapiens, though they rarely attend physical proceedings. Added science officer Zentridi, who had joined their delegation despite security objections. Theoretical analyses suggest divine Omnitrix components incorporate technology beyond conventional evolutionary development. Their observations paused as a striking figure approached directly rather than observing traditional diplomatic distancing. The female tetraman stood nearly 9 feet tall, her 4 powerful arms adorned with ceremonial battle markings that identified royal lineage. Her crimson skin contrasted dramatically with formal diplomatic attire that did nothing to conceal formidable musculature. Princess Kyra of Koros, Gwendia identified quietly. 4th-generation royal military commander and leading advocate for Tetraman expansion in disputed territories. The Tetraman princess stopped at precisely the minimum distance permitted by diplomatic protocol, her expression combining formal neutrality with unmistakable personal assessment. All 4 Eyes studied Banata with particular focus on the divine Omnitrix. Highbreed Prince, she acknowledged, her resonant voice carrying subtle harmonics characteristic of Tetraman vocal structures. Our acquisition of transformation technology alters previously stable power dynamics across 17 disputed territories. Banata recognized the statement's dual purpose, formal diplomatic observation layered over implicit challenge. The divine Omnitrix arrived through circumstances beyond imperial control or prediction, Princess Kyra. Its implications remain under investigation rather than deployed as strategic asset. Her upper right hand made a dismissive gesture that bordered on diplomatic insult. Convenient claim. Highbreed genetic degradation creates existential pressure that historically drives imperial expansion. Transformation technology potentially addresses internal crisis while simultaneously providing military advantage. Your assessment overlooks cooperation possibilities that transcend traditional competition frameworks, Banata responded, maintaining formal composure despite the Tetraman's provocative approach. The Technology Exchange Forum offers opportunity to discuss mutual benefits rather than isolated advantage. All four of Kyra's eyes narrowed simultaneously, a Tetraman expression indicating either skepticism or tactical reassessment. Bold statement. T from Empire historically dedicated to genetic isolation and species superiority doctrine. Has transformation already altered Highbreed philosophical foundations so dramatically? The question Kontai. Ned legitimate diplomatic inquiry beneath deliberate provocation. Banata recognized the test implicit in her approach. Tetraman culture valued directness and strength, considering diplomatic evasion. Evidence of character weakness regardless of political necessity. Experience expands perspective, he responded with calculated directness. The divine Omnitrix provides insight previously inaccessible. Through theoretical understanding alone. Whether such insight constitutes improvement or contamination remains individual interpretation. Kyra's expression shifted to something approaching genuine. Nay, interest rather than formulaic diplomatic exchange. Fascinating distinction. Perhaps conventional assumptions about Highbreed inflexibility require revision. She performed a Tetraman Acknowledge GM. End gesture marginally more respectful than minimum protocol required. Our delegations should discuss specific applications during appropriate forum segments. As she departed with characteristic Tetraman decisiveness, Gwendia raised an eyebrow fractionally. Remarkably cordial for a species with 3 ongoing territorial disputes against Highbreed interests. She was assessing both the transformation technology and its bearer. Banata observed. Tetraman diplomatic approach values personal evaluation over historical precedent. An admirable prioritization despite its occasional abruptness. The Anodite diplomat studied him with renewed interest. Your appreciation for non-Highbreed diplomatic philosophies continues developing at accelerated rates, Highness. Practical necessity rather than philosophical shift. He responded, though internal reflection suggested the distinction had become increasingly blurred since receiving the divine Omnitrix. Each transformation not only granted physical capabilities but left lingering perspective alterations that accumulated with each experience. Their conversation paused as Station Director Xylene approached, accompanied by an unexpected figure whose presence immediately recalibrated diplomatic calculations throughout the chamber. First Thinker Azimuth of the Galvan moved with characteristic efficiency despite diminutive stature, his proportionally oversized cranium and eyes marking him as elder even among his intellectually advanced species. Prince Banata, Xylene began with formal neutrality. First Thinker Azimuth has request. Direct consultation regarding your transformation technology outside standard forum protocols. The Galvan scientist studied the divine Omnitrix with unconcealed scientific interest, his massive eyes blinking in complex patterns that suggested rapid analytical processing. Fascinating integration with Highbreed physiology. Completely inconsistent with standard transformation interface designs. May I? Without waiting for permission, Azimuth leapt with surprising agility onto a nearby surface that placed him at eye level with the device. Banata permitted the examination despite security protocols that would normally prohibit such proximity, recognizing the unprecedented opportunity presented by direct consultation with the galaxy's preeminent transformation technology expert. Remarkable, murmured Azimuth, producing specialized scanning equipment from seemingly nowhere. Quantum entanglement structures integrated directly with biological systems rather than remaining distinct mechanical interface. The device isn't merely attached to your genetics, it's actively communicating with them. Communication implies mutual exchange, Banata observed. Does the divine Omnitrix learn from user interaction? Azimuth's eyes narrowed with intellectual appreciation for the question's insight. Conventional Omnitrix technology catalogs and reproduces genetic sequences without true interactive learning. This device operates on fundamentally different principles, suggesting distinct origin despite superficial similarities. You deny creating it? Gwendia asked directly, her plumber authority temporarily superseding diplomatic restraint. The Galvan scientist appeared genuinely amused by the suggestion. Young lady, while I appreciate the implied compliment to my capabilities, this device incorporates mathematical principles of theorized but never successfully implemented. Certain quantum manipulation sequences appear to operate in 11-dimensional space rather than conventional 3-dimensional materiality. Banata processed this assessment with growing fascination, suggesting origin beyond standard evolutionary development timelines. Precisely, Azimuth agreed with evident approval of the prince's analytical reasoning. The designation, divine, may be technically accurate rather than merely honorific. Level 5 civilizations occasionally create technology indistinguishable from cosmic natural law to less advanced observers. This exchange drew increasing attention from nearby delegates, their private conversations quieting as they attempted to overhear UNPR. Precedented interaction between Highbreed royalty and the legendarily reclusive Galvan genius. Director Xylene intervened with practiced diplomatic redirection. The Technology Exchange Forum provides a appropriate venue for continued discussion of theoretical origins, she suggested, gesturing toward adjacent chambers where formal proceedings were organizing. Specialized acoustic accommodation has been arranged for technical presentations. As they moved toward designated proceedings, Banata noted distinct security patterns emerging throughout the station. Different species protection details maintained seemingly random movements that nonetheless created overlapping observation fields focused primarily on his delegation, and more specifically, on the divine Omnitrix itself. The device pulsed subtly against his wrist, as though sensing the concentrated attention. The Technology Exchange Forum occupied Concordia's largest presentation chamber, a multi-tiered amphitheater whose architecture accommodated diverse biological requirements through specialized seating arrangements and environmental controls. Holographic interfaces provided real-time translation across 63 distinct languages, their subtle shimmer creating ethereal lighting effects throughout the space. Banata observed proceedings with dual perspective, outward diplomatic composure masking internal strategic assessment. Various delegates presented technological innovations with careful omission of military applications, the unspoken understanding being that peaceful advancement took presentation priority while defense capabilities remained carefully obscured despite being each delegation's primary interest. Biosynthetic cellular regeneration demonstrated by Chimera sui generis representatives offers particular relevance to hybrid genetic concerns, noted science officer Zentridi through secured communication channel. Preliminary assessment suggests compatibility with degradation delay protocols currently implemented on Ogstaka. Noted for follow-up during specialized exchange segment, Banata responded, maintaining outward attention toward Petrosapian crystal communication technology being demonstrated through impressive holographic display. The crystalline lattices reminded him of his diamond head transformation, sensory memory creating phantom tactile impressions despite his current hybrid form. Gwendia leaned closer, her voice pitched for private conversation despite the chamber's acoustic design intended to prevent exactly such exchanges. Incoming priority communication from plumber security. Unusual energy signatures detected in station maintenance sectors consistent with technology used during assassination attempts on Ogstaka. The prince absorbed this information without visible reaction. Royal training having perfected emotional control long before diplomatic necessity reinforced the skill. Probability of coincidental signature match. Below 2%, she responded with similar composure. Plumber security recommends immediate defensive protocols. Implementing immediate withdrawal would alert potential hostiles while confirming the divine Omnitrix's strategic importance. Banata countered, weighing multiple tactical considerations simultaneously. Better to maintain scheduled participation while implementing covert countermeasures. Their EXCH Ainge paused as attention shifted toward the presentation stage, where Director Xylene had appeared with unexpected announcement. Distinguished delegates, schedule modification has been implemented to accommodate exhibition segment before Security Council proceedings. The Intergalactic Athletic Federation has arranged demonstration of excellence transcending species-specific capabilities. The announcement generated appreciative murmur throughout assembled delegates, many of whom found technical presentations intellectually necessary but experientially tedious. Athletic exhibitions provided welcome diversity while simultaneously showcasing biological capabilities relevant to security discussions without overtly military context. Convenient timing, observed Gwendia with professional suspicion. Athletic demonstrations weren't included in official agenda distributed to diplomatic delegations. Banata studied the presentation area as it reconfigured through automated systems, combat appropriate barriers rising from recessed floor sections while specialized sensor arrays emerged from ceiling fixtures, creating controlled environment suitable for observing diverse physical capabilities. Tactically intelligent approach to information gathering while maintaining diplomatic facade. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with unusual intensity as the chamber's primary lighting reconfigured for exhibition parameters. The device's behavior had shown increasing responsiveness to environmental stimuli, particularly those involving potential combat scenarios. Banata had begun interpreting the say reactions as precognitive warning rather than simple mechanical response. Delegates reorganized within specialized viewing areas as exhibition participants entered through peripheral access points. Representatives from physically powerful species appeared in training attire that emphasized peak biological condition. Tetraman warriors, Pyronite heat controllers, Petrosapian crystal shapers, and others whose natural abilities transcended conventional physical limitations. Interspecies exhibition combat operates under modified rule systems preventing lethal force while encouraging tactical creativity. Explained and automated announcement system. Participants demonstrate natural abilities without technological enhancement. Among the assembled athletes, one figure immediately captured Ben Otta's attention despite unremarkable appearance by objective standards. The human female stood approximately 5'6", her athletic physique impressive for her species but objectively unacceptable. Null compared to towering tetramans or naturally armored Petrosapians. Dark hair pulled into practical configuration emphasized facial features combining determination with controlled confidence. Julie Yamamoto identified Gwendia, following his line of sight with apparent recognition. Earth-born competitor who's risen to champion status despite obvious biological disadvantages. Something of an interspecies celebrity for outperforming opponents with natural abilities far exceeding human baselines. Banata studied the human athlete with growing interest as she performed warm-up exercises with methodical precision. Her participation against species with natural armor, enhanced strength, or elemental manipulation seems objectively disadvantageous. That perception creates favorable earring opportunities she systematically exploits, Gwendia explained with evident admiration. She's developed specialized techniques that leverage physics principles against opponents who rely on natural advantages rather than tactical innovation. The exhibition began with preliminary demonstrations, species-specific capabilities showcased through choreographed routines emphasizing control rather than raw power. Banata observed with analytical precision, each performance providing insight into biological capabilities potentially relevant to hybrid interests, whether diplomatic or military. When Julie Yamamoto's demonstration began, the contrast with previous participants became immediately apparent. Rather than showcasing natural abilities, she performed a sequence combining multiple earth martial disciplines with improvised weapon techniques using standard objects. Her movements displayed precision efficiency that eliminated unnecessary motion while maximizing kinetic effectiveness. Fascinating compensatory development, noted science officer Zentridi, whose interest transcended traditional hybrid disdain for supposedly inferior species. She's systematically analyzed opponent capabilities and developed counters specifically exploiting common over-reliance on natural advantages. The exhibition transitioned to competitive matches, participants paired according to diplomatic sensitivity rather than strict athletic categories. Predictably, Julie Yamamoto's first opponent was a Tetraman warrior, though not Princess Kyra, whose royal status precluded direct participation. Asian despite her species' cultural emphasis on physical prowess. Deliberately provocative matchup, observed Gwendia as the competitors took their positions. Tetraman strength advantage creates a P-parent mismatch designed to showcase human adaptability against overwhelming natural capability. Banata watched with increasing fascination as the match began. The Tetraman warrior attacked with conventional four-armed combat techniques, each strike containing enough force to shatter concrete. Julie evaded with precisely calculated movements that transformed the opponent's strength into disadvantage through redirected momentum and compromised balance points. She's implementing physics principles similar to Highbreed 7th-tier combat training, Banata noted with professional appreciation. But adapted for significantly different body mechanics and proportional strength ratios. The match concluded with unexpected result, the human athlete systematically neutralizing her physically superior opponent through a combination of leverage techniques, precisely targeted nerve cluster strikes, and psychological manipulation that provoked increasingly frustrated and therefore predictable attack patterns. When victory was declared, appreciative murmurs spread throughout the diplomatic audience. Remarkable performance transcending biological limitation through superior tactical implementation, announced the exhibition coordinator, transitioning to subsequent matches with practiced efficiency. Banata continued observing subsequent exhibitions, but his attention repeatedly returned to Julie Yamamoto as she studied other competitors with professional focus that suggested continuous tactical assessment rather than casual observation. Her analytical approach resonated with his own methodological training, creating unexpected sense of kindred perspective despite enormous biological and cultural differences. Your attention to the human competitor suggests particular interest, Highness, noted Gwendia with diplomatic neutrality that nonetheless contained subtle undertones suggesting personal observation rather than professional assessment. Her tactical methodology demonstrates Atesh principles applicable beyond specific biological parameters, Banata responded, maintaining appropriate analytical distance despite genuine fascination. The divine Omnitrix transforms physical capabilities, but underlying strategic principles remain consistent requirements across all forms. Their exchange paused as general attention shifted toward an unexpected development in the exhibition arena. Princess Kyra had entered despite previous protocol indications of non-participation, her formal diplomatic attire replaced with traditional Tetraman combat garb that emphasized both royal status and formidable physical capability. Protocol violation, murmured Zentridi, checking official exhibition parameters through diplomatic interface. Royal representatives were specifically excluded from physical demonstrations to prevent diplomatic incidents from competition outcomes. Director Xylene approached the Tetraman princess with visible concern, their conversation occurring ND audio transmission range but body language suggesting procedural objection met with characteristic Tetraman insistence. After brief negotiation, the director made apparent concession with specific limitations indicated through formal gestures. Modified exhibition parameters approved, announced the station's communication system. Royal demonstration limited to technical display without competitive engagement. Diplomatic immunity protocols remain active. Princess Kyra performed traditional Tetraman combat forms with exceptional precision, her movements demonstrating martial mastery beyond typical military training. Each sequence showcased different aspects of four-armed combat methodology, from synchronized striking combinations to complex grappling techniques impossible for two RMED species to counter through conventional defenses. Impressive technical proficiency combined with royal bloodline advantages, observed Banata, recognizing military implications beyond mere athletic display. Her combat capability exceeds standard Tetraman parameters by approximately 30% based on biomechanical efficiency indicators. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with unusual intensity during Kyra's demonstration, its behavior pattern distinct from previous reactions. The device's surface symbols reconfigured briefly, a Tetraman genetic marker briefly illuminating before returning to standard configuration. Banata noted this response with growing certainty regarding the device's apparent predictive assessment capabilities. As Kyra completed her demonstration, she performed RMED, the traditional Tetraman challenge salute, a gesture technically within diplomatic protocol but carrying unmistakable martial connotation. The salute's direction, while seemingly general, contained subtle orientation specifically toward the Highbreed delegation's position. Direct provocation while maintaining technical protocol compliance, Gwendia assessed quietly. Clever approach to test. Ing response parameters without creating actionable diplomatic incident. Banata considered appropriate reaction options, recognizing the complex interplay between diplomatic necessity, personal response, and broader strategic implications. Traditional hybrid protocol would require ignoring lesser species provocations as beneath notice, a response that would reinforce existing perceptions of imperial arrogance while squandering opportunity for constructive engagement. With characteristic decisiveness that had distinguished his military education, the prince rose from his assigned position and performed formal acknowledgement of the Tetraman princess's demonstration, a gesture that recognized martial excellence without accepting direct challenge implications. His response included subtle modification that incorporated elements of hybrid formal respect without compromising royal dignity. The exchange created immediate ripple effects throughout the diplomatic assembly. Various delegation members exchanged meaningful glances, diplomatic interfaces activating as representatives reported this unprecedented interaction to their governments. Princess Kyra's expression registered momentary surprise before shifting to thoughtful reassessment, all four eyes narrowing in the Tetraman expression indicating recalculation of previous assumptions. Director Xylene intervened with practiced diplomatic redirection, transitioning proceedings toward scheduled conclusion. The exhibition segment has demonstrated impressive capabilities across multiple species. We thank all participants for their contributions to interspecies understanding through physical arts demonstration. As delegates prepared for transition to subsequent proceedings, Banata noticed Julie Yamamoto studying him with professional assessment similar to his earlier observation of her performance. Their momentary eye contact conveyed mutual recognition of analytical perspectives transcending specific biological implementation, a connection based on methodological similarity rather than physical characteristics. Interesting connection development, observed Gwendia, whose diplomatic training included net awareness of non-verbal communication patterns. The human competitor appears to recognize kindred tactical perspective despite physical and cultural differences. Before Banata could respond, security alerts activated throughout the station, emergency protocols engaging with abrupt transition that interrupted diplomatic proceedings. Containment barriers deployed between station sections automated systems initiated evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel. Security breach detected in Maintenance Sector 14, announced station control through emergency communication channels. Unauthorized technology activation registered in proximity to primary life support systems. All diplomatic personnel proceed to designated secure zones according to established protocols. Divine Omnitrix pulsed with increasing intensity, confirming Banata's earlier suspicions regarding detected energy signatures. Timing suggests coordination with diplomatic proceedings rather than coincidental security failure. He assessed, already calculating potential response options as Royal Guards established defensive formation. Multiple breach points registering simultaneously, report. Ed Security Chief Rienrassig through secured communication channel. Pattern suggests coordinated infiltration rather than isolated intrusion. Gwendia accessed plumber security protocols through concealed communication device. Violet energy briefly manifesting around her hands as she interfaced with station systems. Confirmed pattern match with Ogstaka assassination technology. Same operation. L signature with advanced implementation parameters. Delegates moved toward designated security zones with varying degrees of urgency depending on species-specific threat assessment protocols. Banat noted with interest that both Princess Kyra and Julie Yamamoto had shifted to alert postures suggesting combat readiness rather than defensive withdrawal, behavioral responses inconsistent with NDARD diplomatic or athletic personnel but consistent with security training. Implementing countermeasures requires information currently unavailable through standard channels, Banata decided, activating the Divine Omnitrix with practiced efficiency. Specialized reconnaissance capabilities necessary for effective response formulation. The transformation sequence engaged with emerald energy enveloping his hybrid form. Rather than previous Pyronite or Petrosapian configurations, the device implemented new genetic pattern, restructuring biology into moth-like humanoid with ultrasensitive sensory capabilities and ghostly intangibility properties. Big Chill, Banata identified, the name emerging from integrated transformation knowledge that accompanied physical reconfiguration. Necroth. Rigian physiology optimized for undetected surveillance and environmental manipulation. Royal guards maintained disciplined composure despite their prince's transformation into alien form, a testament to military training overriding cultural xenophobia through professional priority implementation. Science officers Zentridi activated specialized recording equipment to document the previously unobserved transformation for research purposes. Necrophrygian capabilities include phasing through solid matter, cryokinetic manipulation, and enhanced sensory perception across multiple wavelengths, GW. Endia noted with professional assessment. Appropriate selection for current tactical requirements. The transformed prince nodded acknowledgement before implementing intangibility, his physical form shifting to spectral translucence that permitted movement through solid barriers without disruption. I'll conduct direct reconnaissance while you coordinate formal response through official channels. Communication will be maintained through quantum entanglement properties inherent to this form. Without waiting for response, he passed through nearby wall into maintenance corridors beyond, his GHO. Streetly form moving with silent efficiency through restricted areas inaccessible through conventional means. The Necrophrygian sensory capabilities detected thermal variations, atmospheric composition changes, and electromagnetic signatures imperceptible to most species, creating comprehensive environmental awareness that rapidly identified anomalous patterns. Multiple infiltration units detected in environmental control sectors. He reported through quantum entangled communication. Technology signature consistent with previous encounters but implementation parameters significantly advanced. Delegation security teams implementing coordinated response under station authority. Gwendia responded, her voice reaching him despite conventional communication impossibility through his intangible state. Plumber tactical units deploying from concealed station positions. Banata continued methodical reconnaissance, his Necrophrygian form passing undetected through increasingly restricted areas. The infiltration pattern became apparent through systematic analysis. Coordinated teams strategically positioned to simultaneously compromise critical station systems while creating maximum disruption to diplomatic proceedings. His ghostly progress halted abruptly upon discovering central sabotage operation within Primary Life Support Control Center. Unlike previous attackers who had maintained environmental suits concealing identifying features, these operatives worked with faces exposed, revealing them as synthoids, artificial beings created through combined biological and mechanical energy. Nearing whose origins remained controversial among galactic powers. More disturbing than their identity was their apparent objective. Rather than standard sabotage targeting general station functionality, they were implementing specifically calibrated atmospheric modifications designed to target particular biological vulnerabilities across multiple species. Confirmed assassination protocol targeting diplomatic representatives. Banata reported, maintaining intangible observation while developing response options. Atmospheric composition being modified to introduce specialized toxins affecti. ing 15 distinct species-specific respiratory systems simultaneously. Conventional countermeasures would address symptoms rather than source, Gwendia assessed through their connection. Direct neutralization of operatives required before atmospheric contamination reaches irreversible parameters. The transformed prince weighed tactical options with military precision. His current Necrophrygian form offered stealth and reconnaissance advantages but limited offensive capabilities against multiple opponents with unknown combat parameters. Transformation to more combat-oriented form would sacrifice surprise advantage while alerting targets to intervention before completing assessment. With characteristic decisiveness, Banata implemented hybrid approach. Maintaining partial intangibility to prevent premature detection. He strategically positioned himself to maximize initial strike effectiveness once engagement began. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against his transformed physiology, seemingly anticipating imminent combat requirements. Initiating direct intervention, he announced through quantum entanglement. Coordinate secondary response to contain potential escapees through adjacent access corridors. Without further hesitation, he materialized directly within the sabotage operation, simultaneously implementing Necrophrygian cryokinetic capabilities to freeze critical sabotage equipment before operators could complete modifications. The sudden temperature drop created momentary disorientation among synthoid operatives, providing tactical advantage during critical initial engagement seconds. Unauthorized biological modification detected, announced the lead synthoid, its synthetic voice containing mechanical harmonics despite otherwise organic appearance. Highbreed. Royal genetic signature confirmed despite xenoform manifestation. Primary target identified. Banata responded by exhaling concentrated cryogenic energy that encased two operators in solid ice before they could activate defensive countermeasures. The remaining synthoids deployed specialized weapons designed to counter various biological capabilities, suggesting concerning level of preparation spec. Ethically anticipating transformation intervention. The divine Omnitrix will be recovered according to operational parameters, stated another synthoid, activating thermal projection technology design. To neutralize necrophrygian cold manipulation abilities. Your cooperation or destruction remain equally acceptable outcomes. Rather than directly countering thermal opposition through increasingly disadvantageous cold generation, Banata implemented unconventional tactical approach. Utilizing necrophrygian intangibility, he phased through solid floor into equipment space below control room, T. Hen immediately rematerialized to attack from unexpected vector while simultaneously freezing structural support components at precisely calculated stress points. The combined attack created cascading system failures that disrupted synthoid coordination while creating environmental disadvantages affecting their operational efficiency. Banata maintained systematic pressure through continuous positional adjustment, never remaining in single location long enough for opponents to establish effective countermeasures. Despite tactical advantages provided by transformation capabilities, the synthoid's demonstrated concerning combat effectiveness through coordinated responses that adapted to his techniques with mechanical efficiency. Their reactions suggested programming specifically designed to counter transformation-based combat methodology, raising disturbing questions regarding operational intelligence sources. The confrontation escalated as reinforcement synthoids entered through secondary access points, their appearance confirming Banata's suspicion regarding coordinated operation beyond isolated sabotage attempt. The expanding numerical disadvantage would eventually overcome even specialized transformation capabilities through sheer tactical mathematics. Just as combat parameters approached unfavorable threshold, the situation dramatically reconfigured through unexpected intervention. A section of reinforced wall exploded inward with tremendous force, debris temporarily disorienting combatants on both sides. Through the newly created access point came Princess Kyra, her Etraman physiology implementing devastating close-quarters combat techniques against nearest synthoids with precision efficiency that suggested extensive military experience beyond diplomatic function. Tactical support seemed appropriate given circumstances, she announced while systematically disassembling synthetic opponents with four-armed combat methodology that left minimal recovery possibility. Diplomatic immunity provides convenient operational latitude during security incidents. Before Banata could respond, additional intervention arrived through conventional access corridor, Julie Yamamoto entering combat zone with specialized equipment that belied her supposed athletic status. Her movements demonstrated professional combat training entirely inconsistent with exhibition parameters previously displayed. Each strike targeting critical synthoid systems with precision effectiveness that suggested comprehensive knowledge of their construction. Plummer Special Operations, she identified briefly between neutralizing opponents with efficient combination of technological countermeasures and physical combat techniques. Cover identity compromised but operational parameters achieved. The transformed prince processed this revelation while continuing combat operations, the three unlikely allies implementing complementary methodology that rapidly shifted tactical advantage. Necrophrygian cold manipulation, Tetraman overwhelming force, and specialized human countermeasures created combat synergy that synthoid programming proved inadequate to counter despite numerical superiority. As immediate threats approached neutralization, Gwendia arrived with station security forces whose delayed response suggested intentional coordination rather than procedural inefficiency. Our violet energy constructs contained remaining synthoids while specialized equipment secured sabotage technology for subsequent analysis. Situation contained, she reported with professional efficient that matched her companion's combat performance. Similar infiltration attempts simultaneously neutralized at 14 additional locations throughout the station. Preliminary assessment suggests Coordinated operation specifically targeting transformation technology representatives. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with timing indication as Necrophrygian transformation approached automatic reversion. Banata returned to Highbreed form with practiced composure, maintaining tactical awareness despite physiological transition disorientation that accompanied genetic reconfiguration. Princess Kyra observed the transformation with undisguised interest, all four eyes narrowed in analytical assessment rather than cultural disapproval. Impressive tactical implementation of transformation capabilities. Your combat methodology suggests military training foundation effectively adapted to xenoform physical parameters. Operational flexibility represents fundamental tactical principle regardless of specific biological implementation. Banata responded, recognizing her observation as professional assessment rather than diplomatic formality. Your combat performance similarly suggests capability, i.e. exceeding standard diplomatic parameters. The Tetraman princess made dismissive gesture with lower right hand while upper arms adjusted combat garments disarranged during engagement. Koro's Mill. Atari tradition requires royal representatives maintain combat proficiency regardless of diplomatic assignment. Practical necessity rather than ceremonial adherence. Julie Yamamoto secured remaining specialized equipment with practiced efficiency, her movements confirming extensive field operations experience despite youthful appearance. Plumber Intelligence identified potential security compromise weeks ago but couldn't pinpoint specific target without compromising ongoing investigations. The divine Omnitrix's appearance accelerated operational timetable, creating convenient convergence between multiple investigative vectors. Observed Gwendia, exchanging meaningful glance with her apparent colleague that suggested shared operational background beyond coincidental presence. Though questions regarding infiltration methodology remain unanswered. Station security forces established containment protocols around captured synthoids and recovered technology while diplomatic representatives gathered in adjacent secure chamber. Director Xylene coordinated emergency response with characteristic efficiency, though subtle tension in her posture suggested concerning implications beyond immediate security breach. The diplomatic congress faces unprecedented situation, she announced once essential personnel had assembled within secured communications range. Simultaneous infiltration, targeting multiple delegations suggests coordination beyond conventional threat parameters. Preliminary analysis confirms specialized atmospheric modifications designed to eliminate representatives ROM-17 governments simultaneously. This revelation generated expected consternation among diplomatic representatives, many activating secure communications to update their governments regarding emerging threat assessment. Banata observed these reactions with analytical precision, noting which delegations appeared genuinely surprised versus those demonstrating controlled responses suggesting prior knowledge. The primary target appears to have been transformation technology representatives, continued Director Xylene, gesturing toward specialized containment fields securing recovered sabotage equipment. Particularly those with connection to Omnitrix-derived systems or research applications. First thinker Azimuth examined captured technology with characteristic intensity, his massive eyes blinking rapidly as he processed technical implications. Fascinating implementation approach. The atmospheric delivery system incorporates principles consistent with Omnitrix transformation mechanics but inverted to destabilize genetic integrity rather than enhance it, suggesting development by entities with intimate knowledge of transformation technology foundations, concluded Science Officer Zentridi, who had joined technical assessment team despite security protocols that would normally exclude non-essential personnel from investigation. Knowledge beyond standard reverse engineering capability. Banata processed these observations while conducting parallel analysis of diplomatic representatives' reactions. Princess Kyra maintained combat-ready posture despite formal proceedings resumption. Her attention divided between official discussion and continuous environmental assessment suggesting ingrained security training. Julie Yamamoto had seamlessly transitioned to OBS. Role consistent with athletic exhibition cover identity, though subtle positioning maintained optimal intervention capabilities should additional threats materialize. The Synthoid Technology Conference. ERM's developmental origin inconsistent with previously identified operational signatures, Gwendia reported after consulting specialized plumber analytical equipment. Component integration methodology. GY suggests new manufacturing source rather than previously encountered groups. creating attribution difficulties that conveniently obscure a responsibility assignment, noted Banata, recognizing intentional operational design element rather than coincidental complication. Diplomatic implications extend beyond immediate security concerns into potential destabilization across multiple territorial jurisdictions. Director Xylene activated specialized communication protocols that established enhanced security parameters around their discussion. The scheduled Security Council must address IATE response coordination while investigation continues through appropriate channels. Each delegation will receive complete briefing materials once threat assessment reaches preliminary conclusion. As formal proceedings reorganized according to emergency protocols, Banata found opportunity for direct conversation with the unexpected combat allies whose intervention had proven tactically significant. Princess Kyra and Julie Yamamoto had positioned themselves near environmental monitoring station that provided both tactical awareness and conversational privacy within acceptable security parameters. Your combat intervention demonstrated coordination suggesting prior operational interaction rather than coincidental response, he observed directly, addressing both simultaneously with appropriate diplomatic neutrality despite pointed observation. Julie Yamamoto smiled slightly, the expression containing professional appreciation rather than social warmth. Accurate assessment. Plummer. Special Operations maintains situational awareness regarding potential transformation technology proliferation across multiple jurisdictions. Your arrival with the Divine Omnitrix created operational intersection with ongoing investigations, including Tetraman royal involvement beyond standard diplomatic parameters, added Banata, focusing attention on Princess Kyra with specific interest regarding her unexpected combat participation. All four of her eyes narrowed in characteristic expression suggesting both annoyance and reluctant respect. Koro's military intelligence identified pattern consistent with previous assassination attempts against transformation technology researchers within our territories. Diplomatic assignment provided convenient operational cover for parallel investigation without official acknowledgement. Quote, creating 3 simultaneous investigations operating without coordination until crisis circumstances forced convergence, concluded Gwendia, who had joined Air conversation with timing suggesting intentional monitoring rather than coincidental arrival. An operational inefficiency with fortunate outcome given today's events. Banata studied the 3F. Males with growing appreciation for operational complexities beyond official diplomatic parameters. Each represented different species, governmental interests, and professional methodologies, yet all had demonstrated immediate combat effectiveness when circumstances required direct intervention. The coincidental convergence around transformation technology seemed increasingly deliberate rather than random circumstance. The Divine Omnitrix represents technological implementation beyond conventional development parameters, he observed, deliberately testing their reactions through specific terminology choice. Its appearance specifically to Highbreed royalty during genetic degradation crisis suggests intentional selection rather than random acquisition. Julie Yamamoto exchanged brief glance with Gwendia before responding with carefully measured disclosure. Plummer Intelligence has documented 27 incidents involving transformation technology appearance to specific individuals across multiple species during the past 2 standard cycles. Each recipient faced species-specific existential crisis requiring adaptive response beyond conventional solutions. Creating pattern consistent with directed intervention rather than coincidental technological distribution, Princess Kyra concluded, her direct approach bypassing diplomatic caution in favor of operational efficiency. The question becomes, what intelligence coordinates such precise implementation across jurisdictional boundaries without detection by conventional monitoring systems? The Divine Omnitrix pulsed softly against Banata's wrist, its behavior increasingly responsive to conversation topics involving its origins and purpose. The device had demonstrated progressive integration with his biology beyond simple mechanical attachment, suggesting relationship closer to symbiotic partnership than conventional technological utilization. Perhaps the technology itself represents implementation intelligence, rather than requiring external coordination, he suggested, observing the device's reaction to this hypothesis. Advanced enough systems can appear indistinguishable from conscious intention to conventional analysis frameworks. This observation generated thoughtful consideration from all three females, their expressions suggesting different perspectives regarding implications while sharing recognition of significant possibilities beyond standard classification parameters. Before conversation could continue, Director Xylene approached with formal notification regarding emergency session commencement. The Security Council awaits primary witnesses regarding infiltration intervention, she announced with appropriate procedural emphasis. Preliminary investigation conclusions will determine subsequent diplomatic and security responses across affected jurisdictions. As they moved toward council chambers, Banata found himself walking alongside Julie Yamamoto, whose combat capabilities had demonstrated professional parameters significantly beyond athletic exhibition identity. Her movement patterns maintained consistent environmental awareness despite conversational engagement, suggesting ingrained operational habits rather than temporary situational response. Your combat methodology demonstrated systematic analysis of opponent weaknesses regardless of specific biological advantages, he observed. Recognizing kindred tactical perspective despite enormous physiological differences. An approach consistent with hybrid military philosophy despite completely different implementation requirements. She smiled slightly, the expression containing professional acknowledgement rather than social engagement. Humans lack natural advantages compared to most sentient species. Effectiveness requires leveraging intelligence against physical limitations through systematic exploitation of universal physical principles rather than specific biological capabilities. Creating adaptive combat methodology applicable across varied circumstances regardless of opponent parameters, Banata concluded with growing appreciation. The divine Omnitrix provides varied biological capabilities, but underlying tactical principles remain consistent requirement across all transformations. Julie studied him with analytical precision that matched his own observational approach. Your adaptatio to transformation capabilities suggests similar perspective, maintaining core tactical methodology while implementing form-specific advantages. Most Omnitrix wielders become overly dependent on transformation capabilities rather than integrating them with fundamental strategic principles. This assessment demonstrated observational insight and professional experience beyond her cover identity, confirming Banata's suspicion regarding specialized operational background. You've encountered other transformation technology users beyond official records. Her expression shifted to professional neutrality that neither confirmed nor denied his observation. Plummer operational parameters include comprehensive monitoring of potentially destabilizing technologies across multiple jurisdictions. Divine Omnitrix represents unprecedented implementation with corresponding security implications requiring appropriate oversight. The conversation paused as they entered council chambers where delegates had assembled according to emergency protocols. Unlike standard diplomatic configuration emphasizing governmental hierarchies, Security Council seating arranged representatives according to immediate crisis response capabilities rather than political status, creating unusual proximity between traditionally separated delegations. Banata found himself positioned near both Princess Kyra and First Thinker Azimuth. With Julie Yamamoto and Gwendia nearby in specialized advisor capacity rather than primary delegation roles. The arrangement created unexpected interaction opportunity among individuals whose conventional diplomatic positions would normally prevent direct operational conversation outside formal proceedings. The infiltration technology incorporated quantum entanglement principles, consistent with theoretical transformation mechanics I abandoned 78 cycles ago due to ethical concerns, Azimuth observed without preamble, his characteristic directness bypassing diplomatic formalities in favor of technical precision. Implementation parameters suggest development by entities with access to restricted research archives rather than independent discovery. Creating disturbing implications regarding information security across multiple research jurisdictions, noted Princess Kyra, her military background evident in immediate strategic assessment rather than diplomatic deflection. Tetraman Intelligence identified similar technology implemented during assassination attempt against crystalline matrix researchers on Petropia last standard cycle. Julie Yamamoto activated specialized analytical interface that displayed technical correlations between recovered components and previously documented incidents. Confirmed connection with 15 similar events across 9 jurisdictions during past 3 standard cycles. Operational pattern suggests systematic targeting of transformation technology researchers rather than random violence or conventional political motivation. Bonatta integrated these observations with his own analysis of divine Omnitrix behavior patterns since acquisition, creating concerning correlation between research targeting and transformation technology appearance to selected individuals, suggesting coordinated opposition to specific developmental vector rather than general technological suppression. Gwendia completed conversation sequence with subtle gesture that established secure communication parameters around their conversation despite public council chamber setting. Plummer intelligence designation. Operation Cosmic Balance. Classification level prevents detailed disclosure without appropriate authorization, but operational parameters include monitoring potential opposition forces attempting to prevent specific transformation technology implementation across multiple species facing evolutionary crisis points. This revelation created momentary conversational pause as implications expanded beyond individual security concerns into potential galaxy-wide significance. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with unusual intensity against Bonatta's wrist, its behavior suggesting confirmation rather than simple mechanical response. The security breach created unprecedented operational convergence opportunity, Princess Kyra observed with characteristic directness. 4 separate investigations intersecting around Ingle technological focal point despite jurisdictional boundaries and conventional diplomatic limitations, suggesting coordination beyond coincidental circumstance, agreed Bonatta, the device on High's wrist continuing responsive behavior that increasingly appeared intentional rather than mechanical. Perhaps the divine Omnitrix itself represents implementation vector for bringing necessary operational assets into appropriate convergence patterns. Azimuth studied the device with renewed scientific interest, his massive eyes blinking in complex patterns suggesting rapid analytical processing. Fascinating theoretical possibility. Advanced enough quantum consciousness could manipulate probability vectors to create circumstantial convergence patterns appearing coincidental to conventional observation frameworks. Julie Yamamoto exchanged meaningful glance with Gwendia before adding her assessment, creating operational parameters beyond conventional monitoring capabilities. Plummer Specia. L Operations has documented similar convergence patterns around previous transformation technology appearances, but attribution analysis remains inconclusive regarding coordinating intelligence. Our conversation paused as Director Xylene called the Emergency Council to order, formal proceedings beginning with incident assessment presented through specialized security interfaces. As technical details filled display screens throughout the chamber, Bonatta contemplated broader implications beyond immediate security breach. The divine Omnitrix had appeared during Highbreed genetic crisis, providing potential solution to species extinction while simultaneously drawing him into operational convergence with individuals representing different species, governments, and methodologies, yet all demonstrating capabilities consistent with addressing transformation technology threats. The pattern suggested purpose beyond coincidental technological acquisition, raising profound questions regarding underlying intelligence coordinating these apparently separate developments. The common factor extends beyond transformation technology itself, he observed quietly to his unlikely conversation partners. Each of us represents specialized capability integrated within larger operational framework despite apparent jurisdictional separation, creating effective response team transcending conventional organizational limitations. Princess Kyra's upper right hand made subtle gesture indicating agreement while maintaining official attention toward formal proceedings. Tetraman military doctrine identifies such convergence as circumstantial asset optimization, battlefield conditions creating unexpected resource combinations more effective than formally structured units. Plummer Special Opera. Tyons implements similar methodology through distributed asset placement rather than conventional team structures, added Julie, her professional background increasingly evident despite maintained cover identity. Operational flexibility maximized through specialized individual capabilities coordinated through circumstantial convergence rather than hierarchical command structure. Creating respawn. Say capability specifically adapted to unconventional threat parameters, concluded Gwendia, completing conceptual framework with characteristic analytical precision. The question becomes whether such convergence represents coincidental development or intentional design implemented through advanced coordination intelligence. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against Banata's wrist with timing that increasingly suggested response rather than mechanical coincidence. Throughout formal Security Council proceedings, he found his attention divided between official diplomatic requirements and growing fascination with implications regarding his transformed role beyond Highbreed royal responsibilities. Each transformation not only provided different physical capabilities but expanded perspective beyond conventional Highbreed parameters, creating evolutionary adaptation beyond mere genetic manipulation. The individuals converging around this transformation technology demonstrated similar adaptive abilities despite maintaining their original biological forms, suggesting fundamental connection transcending physical implementation. As formal proceedings continued, Banata observed Princess Kyra's continued combat readiness despite diplomatic setting, Julie Yamamoto's systematic environmental assessment despite civilian cover identity, and Gwendy's energy manipulation capabilities carefully controlled beneath diplomatic facade. Each represented adaptation to circumstances beyond conventional evolutionary development, creating specialized capabilities transcending species-specific limitations through intentional development rather than genetic predetermination. The divine Omnitrix seemed to pulse in rhythm with this realization, suggesting confirmation of conceptual framework developing within his increasingly expanded perspective. Whatever intelligence had created the device and directed its appearance specifically to him during Highbreed genetic crisis clearly operated according to parameters transcending conventional understanding, implementing solution addressing not merely biological degradation but fundamental evolutionary limitations restricting potential development. Security Council proceedings concluded with formal resolution establishing investigative parameters and implementing enhanced protection protocols for diplomatic representatives potentially targeted by identified threat organizations. As delegates dispersed toward separate accommodations according to security guidelines, Banata found himself approaching Julie Yamamoto with diplomatic precision. King genuine interest beyond official interaction requirements. Your combat methodology demonstrates principles applicable beyond specific biological implementation, he observed, maintaining proper IATE conversational distance despite diplomatic protocol modification necessitated by security circumstances. Perhaps knowledge exchange would provide mutual operational benefits given convergent investigation parameters. She studied him with professional assessment that matched his analytical approach, her expression suggesting recognition of genuine interest beyond diplomatic formality. Ali's training development represents continuous adaptation requirement when facing opponents with natural advantages. Transformation capabilities provide different implementation challenges but similar methodological requirements regarding fundamental principles versus specific applications, creating potential synergistic development through comparative analysis despite different biological parameters, Banata concluded. Recognizing connection beyond superficial differences. Perhaps demonstration exchange during appropriate security interval would provide mutual operational enhancement opportunity. Julie's expression shifted to something approximating genuine interest beyond professional assessment. Interesting proposition. Plumber operational scheduling allows limited availability. During station security reconfiguration period, Training Facility 17 offers appropriate environmental parameters for comparative methodology demonstration. This exchange represented diplomacy, communication transcending conventional species barriers while simultaneously establishing professional connection beyond official parameters, creating operational relationship potential despite most biological and cultural differences. Banata recognized significant development beyond traditional Highbreed interaction limitations, yet found implementation surprisingly natural despite life-LNG conditioning regarding species separation. As security proceedings concluded with delegates moving toward separate accommodation arrangements, Princess Kyra approached with characteristic Tetraman directness that bypassed diplomatic pretense in favor of operational efficiency. Tetraman military intelligence requires comprehensive briefing regarding transformation technology capabilities demonstrated during security incident. She stated without preamble, all four eyes focused with intense assessment that combined professional interest with personal curiosity. Official channels provide inadequate information transfer compared to direct demonstration parameters. Banata recognized the request beneath formal justification, professional interest in transformation capabilities combined with personal fascination regarding technology transcending conventional evolutionary limitations. Knowledge exchange offers mutual benefit given operational convergence demonstrated during security response. Perhaps coordinated assessment involving multiple specialized perspectives would provide optimal analytical framework. The Tetraman princess made affirmative gesture with upper right hand, while maintaining direct eye contact with characteristic intensity. Logical approach maximizing information utilization efficiency. Tetraman tactical analysis capabilities complement transformation. Technology implementation through specialized combat methodology optimization. This exchange established additional operational connection beyond conventional diplomatic parameters, creating relation. Ship network transcending traditional species limitations through shared professional interests despite cultural differences. Banata found himself developing unprecedented interaction patterns with individuals whose capabilities complemented his transformed potential despite completely different evolutionary origins. Gwendia observed these interactions with diplomatic neutrality masking professional assessment. Her violet eyes containing subtle indicators suggesting recognition of developing pattern beyond coincidental connection. Plummer security protocols recommend coordinated approach given demonstrated threat parameters. Perhaps consolidated briefing arrangement would provide optimal information distribution while maintaining appropriate security containment. Her suggestion created operational framework legitimizing continued interaction among individuals whose conventional diplomatic positions would normally prevent sustained contact outside formal proceedings. Banata recogni. Z intentional facilitation beneath procedural justification, suggesting support for developing connections beyond official parameters. The divine Omnitrix pulsed softly against his wrist as these arrangements developed. Its behavior increasingly responsive to interaction patterns among the unlikely operational group forming through circumstantial convergence. Whatever intelligence had directed IT's appearance specifically to Highbreed royalty during genetic crisis clearly operated according to parameters transcending conventional evolutionary development, implementing solution addressing not early biological degradation but fundamental limitation transcendence through unexpected connection establishment. As security protocols established escort arrangements toward separate accommodation sectors, Banata contemplated profound implications regarding his transformed role beyond traditional Highbreed royal responsibilities. Each new connection established with individuals representing different species, methodologies, and perspectives expanded possibilities beyond conventional imperial parameters, creating potential transcending near genetic preservation toward fundamental evolutionary adaptation through interaction rather than isolation. The divine Omnitrix seemed to confirm this realization through subtle response patterns suggesting approval rather than mechanical coincidence. He device had initiated transformation process extending beyond physical reconfiguration into fundamental perspective adaptation, creating evolutionary development addressing Highbreed limitations through connection rather than separation. Cooperation rather than competition, integration rather than isolation. As Concordia Station's security systems established nighttime simulation cycle, Banata P. repaired for continued investigation into transformation technology threats while simultaneously exploring unprecedented connections established through circumstances orchestrated beyond conventional understanding. Whatever intelligence coordinated these developments clearly operated according to purpose transcending individual comprehension, implementing solution addressing not merely specific CRIS. Is but fundamental evolutionary potential through unexpected convergence creation. The diplomatic summit originally intended as information gathering opportunity had transformed into operational nexus, connecting individuals whose capabilities transcended conventional limitations through specialized development rather than genetic predetermination. Each represented adaptation beyond traditional evolutionary parameters through intentional transcendence rather than biological inheritance, creating potential partnership transcending species barriers through shared purpose beyond individual limitations. As Banata completed security protocols within assigned quarters, the divine Omnitrix pulsed with gentle rhythms suggesting satisfaction rather than mechanical function. Whatever journey had begun, with its unexpected appearance during sacred purification ceremony clearly extended beyond mere technological acquisition into fundamental transformation process, creating evolutionary development addressing not merely Highbreed genetic degradation but universal adaptation potential through connection rather than separation. Tomorrow would bring continued investigation into immediate security threats. But underlying significance extended beyond specific incidents into profound implications regarding evolutionary potential transcending traditional limitations through transformation, both physical and philosophical, beyond conventional understanding. The divine Omnitrix had chosen him specifically during Highbreed crisis, but its purpose clearly extended beyond mere species preservation into fundamental potential activation through unexpected connection establishment. Chapter 3. Soul of Transformation. Dawn never truly came to Primus. The ancient temple world rotated with ponderous dignity beneath the light of three distant suns. Their competing illumination creating an eternal twilight across landscapes untouched by conventional civilization. Massive stone structures rose from misty valleys like the vertebrae of forgotten titans, their weather-worn surfaces inscribed with mathematical equations so complex they appeared decorative to untrained eyes. Banata stood alone atop the highest terrace of the Temple of Transformation, the divine Omnitrix pulsing against his wrist with unprecedented intensity. The device had guided their expedition here with increasing urgency following the Concordia station attack. Its behavior shifting from passive tool to active navigator as they approached this mysterious world absent from official galactic cartography. I am here, he thought, not entirely certain whether he addressed the planet, the device, or some intelligence beyond conventional perception. What would you have me understand? Wind whispered across ancient stone, carrying scene. TS of mineral decay and something indefinably older, time itself perhaps, compressed into molecular form through eons of unwitnessed passage. The Highbreed prince closed his sensory receptors, allowing non-visual perception to expand beyond biological limitation. Since receiving the divine Omnitrix, his awareness had developed capabilities transcending standard physiological parameters, creating perceptual expansion beyond conventional evolutionary development. Footsteps approached from behind, distinctive rhythm identifying Julie Yamamoto without visual confirmation. The human plumber operative had adapted to Primus's unusual gravitational fluctuations with characteristic efficiency, her movements compensating for environmental variations through instinctive recalculation rather than conscious adjustment. The others are completing base camp establishment, she reported, professional precision complemented by growing personal familiarity developed during their journey. Gwendia's energy. Y scans detected unusual temporal distortions throughout the valley complex. She recommends caution during initial exploration. Banata opened his sensory receptors, turning to observe his unlikely companion. Julie had abandoned plumber uniform for practical exploration attire that prioritized functional movement over organizational identification. The pragmatic adaptation mirrored his own perceptive shift away from imperial formality toward operational effectiveness. One of many parallel developments suggesting deeper connection beyond superficial differences. The divine Omnitrix responds differently here, he observed, extending his wrist to display the device's intensified activity. Its energy signature demonstrates harmonic resonance with the temple structures themselves, suggesting foundational connection rather than coincidental similarity. Julie approached with measured steps, her analytical expression reflecting shared investigative perspective despite enormous biological differences. She studied the device with professional assessment rather than suspicious caution, their established operational trust transcending conventional species barriers through demonstrated compatibility. The mathematical inscriptions throughout these structures incorporate 11-dimensional equations consistent with theoretical transformation mechanics, she noted, gesturing toward nearby stone surfaces covered with intricate symbols. According to Azimuth's research, conventional Omnitrix technology operates on principles derived from simplified versions of these fundamental calculations. Their conversation paused as Princess Kyra emerged onto the terrace, her Tetraman physiology handling Primus's environmental challenges with natural advantage. Unlike Julie's methodical compensation, Kyra adapted through overwhelming biological capability. Strength sufficient to overcome gravitational anomalies through direct opposition rather than technical adjustment. Perimeter security. TIE established according to operational parameters, she reported, military efficiency underlying formal diplomatic identity. All four eyes conducted continuous environmental assessment while maintaining conversation focus, a multitasking capability Banata had come to appreciate despite initial perception as disconcerting. Gwendia detected energy signatures consistent with artificial technology despite apparent abandonment. We are not alone on this world. Banata absorbed this information with tactical consideration rather than surprise. Throughout their expedition, evidence had mounted suggesting observation by unidentified entities operating beyond conventional detection parameters. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with subtle intensity variations whenever such evidence appeared, its behavior or suggesting awareness beyond mechanical response. The Temple of Transformation appears central to larger architectural complex extending beneath surface level, he noted, indicating barely visible structural patterns revealed through morning mist. Subterranean configuration suggests facilities beyond ceremonial purpose despite religious aesthetic elements. Their analytical exchange paused as Gwendia approached. Violet energy surrounding her hands like ethereal gloves while she manipulated complex scanning equipment. The Anodite's capabilities had proven increasingly valuable throughout their expedition. Her energy manipulation providing both practical utility and defensive capability when facing environmental hazards. I've completed preliminary mapping of temporal distortion patterns, she reported, projecting three-dimensional holographic representation of their surroundings with anomalies highlighted in pulsing violet. The distortions create predictable variation cycles rather than random fluctuations, suggesting intentional design rather than natural phenomena. Banata studied the projection with growing certainty regarding their expedition's significance. Creating temporal isolation parameters protecting these facilities from conventional observation while simultaneously preserving original construction despite geological timeframes. Precisely, agreed Gwendia. Violet eyes reflecting holographic light with unusual intensity. Someone designed this entire complex to exist partially outside normal temporal flow, allowing it to remain functionally unchanged for potentially millions of years while experiencing only thousands internally. This observation expanded already significant implications regarding Primus's origins and purpose. Whatever civilization had constructed these facilities clearly possessed technological capabilities far exceeding contemporary galactic development, operating according to principles transcending conventional evolutionary timelines. Their contemplation was interrupted by communication alert from Expedition Security Team. Unidentified energy signature approaching from Eastern Quadrant, reported Security Chief Rienrassig through encrypted channel. Movement pattern suggests directed travel rather than environmental anomaly. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with sudden intensity, its surface reconfiguring to display infamy. Liar genetic marker not previously accessible through transformation interface. Banata studied the new pattern with growing certainty that it represented intentional communication rather than mechanical malfunction. We should investigate directly, he decided, activating transformation sequence with practiced efficiency. Emerald energy enveloped his hybrid form, restructuring biology into previously unavailable configuration. Humanoid figure composed of metallic plates with electromagnetic manipulation capabilities. Lodestar, he identified as transformation completed, name emerging from integrated knowledge accompanying physical reconfiguration. Biosynthetic Biosovordian with specialized detection capabilities optimized for tracking energy signatures through electromagnetic spectrum analysis. Julie studied his transformed state with professional interest rather than surprise, their established operational relationship having normalized transformation transitions despite radical physiological alteration. Appropriate selection for current requirements. Biosovordian sensory capabilities should penetrate temporal distortion effects that limit conventional detection equipment. The transformed prince nodded metallic head while extending sensory capabilities beyond standard parameters, electromagnetic perception expanding to encompass energy patterns imperceptible to biological observation. The approaching signature immediately resolved into distinct configuration unlike anything previously encountered, neither fully biological nor conventionally technological, but something occupying transitional space between established categories. Definitely directed movement with purpose rather than random environmental interaction, he confirmed, already calculating intercept vectors while maintaining analytical assessment. The signature contains structural elements similar to divine Omnitrix quantum patterns but significantly modified through unknown implementation methodology. Suggesting potential connection to transformation technology origins, observed Kyra, all four arms automatically adjusting specialized equipment with combat readiness belying diplomatic status. Tactical approach recommendations given unknown capability parameters. Direct intercept with sufficient force distribution to provide response flexibility without presenting consolidated target, Banata decided. His transformed state providing tactical analysis enhancement through specialized cognitive processing capacity. Julie and Gwendia approach from Eastern Vector while Princess K. Ira establishes secondary position with Overwatch capability. All implement primary contact through transformation advantage while maintaining communication link. This operational planning rated their developed coordination beyond formal organizational structure, shared experience creating functional team capabilities despite diverse origins and methodologies. Each member naturally awesome. Complementary roles according to specialized capabilities rather than hierarchical assignment, creating adaptive response pattern transcending conventional command limitations. As they deployed according to established plan, Banata reflected on profound developments since receiving the divine Omnitrix. Beyond physical transformation capabilities, the device had catalyzed fundamental perspective. E-shift transcending hybrid limitations through unprecedented connection with individuals representing completely different evolutionary pathways. Their functional compatibility despite enormous biological differences suggested deeper potential beyond conventional understanding. Evolutionary development through cooperation rather than isolation, integration rather than separation. These philosophical contemplations paused as electromagnetic senses detected proximity to approaching entity. The transformed prince adjusted position according to tactical requirements while simultaneously expanding perception parameters to gather maximum information before direct encounter. Whatever approached clearly possessed awareness beyond standard classification systems, its movement patterns suggesting deliberate purpose rather than random exploration. From swirling mists emerged a figure unlike anything previously encountered despite extensive transformation experience. Female humanoid in general configuration but composed of shifting energy patterns contained within semi-transparent crystalline structure. Neither fully material nor completely energy-based, but existing in quantum state between defined categories. Her appearance conveyed both ancient permanence and newly formed transience simultaneously, creating perceptual contradiction that transcended conventional observation parameters. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with unprecedented intensity as this entity approached, its behavior suggesting recognition beyond mechanical response. Banata maintained transformed state while established in communication position demonstrating neither threatening posture nor defensive vulnerability, balanced approach appropriate for unknown encounter circumstances. Interesting selection, observed the crystalline entity. Her voice containing harmonics suggesting multiple simultaneous communication layers beyond audible components. Biosovordian physiology provides appropriate perception capability. Wise for initial contact parameters while maintaining defensive options through electromagnetic manipulation. Your adaptation to transformation capabilities progresses with impressive efficiency. This greeting confirms sophisticated awareness beyond random encounter, suggesting predetermined purpose rather than coincidental meeting. Banata maintained analytical caution while calculating response options. Transformation capabilities providing tactical advantage through specialized electromagnetic control if interaction became confrontational. You recognize transformation technology specifically rather than generally, he observed. Testing response parameters through precise statement inviting elaboration without direct questioning, suggesting familiarity beyond observational assessment. The crystalline figure's energy patterns shifted in configuration suggesting something analogous to amusement despite completely different physiological implementation. Recognition extends beyond mere familiarity. Biosovordian form of hybrid Prince Banata. I am Eunice, custodian interface for the Primus Facility Complex and specialized guide for transformation recipients meeting appropriate developmental parameters. This introduction expanded implications beyond initial assessment while raising additional questions regarding predetermined selection criteria. Banata maintained transfer med state while signaling expedition members to maintain observation positions rather than approaching directly, prudent caution despite apparently non-hostile interaction parameters. Your awareness my identity despite transformed state suggests monitoring capabilities beyond conventional observation parameters, he noted, continuing information gathering through indirect methodology. Creating questions regarding both capabilities and purpose beyond custodial functionality. Eunice's crystalline structure reconfigured slightly, energy patterns shifting in what appeared to be gesture approximately. A mating physical movement despite fundamentally different construction. Monitoring provides insufficient descriptive accuracy. Participation represents more appropriate conceptual framework regarding relationship between Primus facility functions and transformation recipients throughout connected universes. This response confirms suspicions regarding broader purpose beyond isolated technological development, suggesting coordinated implementation across multiple jurisdictions rather than coincidental distribution. Before Banata could formulate appropriate follow-up, Gwendia approached from established position, violet energy surrounding her hands with contained potential rather than active implementation. Connected universes implies multidimensional oversight beyond conventional developmental timelines. She observed with characteristic analytical precision, her anodite energy patterns creating interesting harmonic resonance with Eunice's crystalline structure that registered clear Li through Biosovordian electromagnetic perception, suggesting purpose transcending individual transformation technology distribution toward larger developmental framework. Eunice turned toward Gwen, DYA with reconfigured energy patterns suggesting recognition beyond initial encounter parameters. Accurate assessment, anodite human hybrid Gwendolyn. Your perceptual development progresses appropriately despite biological limitation parameters within current manifestation stage. This interaction confirmed predetermined awareness extending beyond Banata himself toward expedition members specifically, suggesting intentional convergence rather than coincidental assembly. Julie approached with characteristic methodical movement while Princess Kyra maintained secondary position according to established tactical distribution despite evident curiosity regarding unusual encounter. The divine Omnitrix appeared during Highbreed genetic degradation crisis requiring evolutionary intervention, Banata observed. Returning conversation toward primary investigation purpose while transformation timer indicated approaching reversion. Similar devices reportedly manifested for individuals facing species-specific existential challenges across multiple jurisdictions during identical temporal framework, suggesting coordinated implementation rather than coincidental distribution. Eunice's energy patterns shifted into configuration suggesting approval or confirmation rather than surprise at this observation. Appropriate assessment demonstrating perceptual development beyond biological limitation parameters. Perhaps continued conversation would benefit from expanded contextual framework within primary facility rather than exposed surface position. The divine Omnitrix completed transformation cycle timing, returning Banata to hybrid form with familiar energy reconfiguration. Despite returning to original biology, his perspective retained analytical elements developed through transformed experience, creating cumulative consciousness expansion beyond simple physiological alteration. Your invitation presents both opportunity and potential security concerns given unknown facility parameters. He responded with diplomatic precision masking tactical assessment. Perhaps preliminary explanation regarding facility purpose would provide appropriate contextual framework for informed decision implementation. Eunice's crystalline structure emitted subtle luminescence suggesting approval of cautious approach rather than offense at implied distrust. The Primus complex represents centralized monitoring and implementation facility for transformation technology distribution across connected universal frameworks. Its construction predates conventional evolutionary development time lines by approximately 12 billion years according to standard measurement parameters. This revelation expanded implications beyond already significant assessment toward truly profound considerity. ONs regarding both technological origin and implementation purpose. Banata exchanged meaningful glances with expedition members, their developed operational relationship allowing complex communicatio through minimal expression rather than extensive verbalization. Accepting your invitation seems appropriate given investigation parameters, he decided after brief consideration, balancing potentia information value against security concerns with measured assessment. Though prudent precautions remain advisable given recent experiences with entities targeting transformation technology throughout multiple jurisdictions. Eunice's energy patterns reconfigured into something approximating understanding gesture despite fundamentally different physiological implementation. Your caution demonstrates appropriate developmental progression. Recent opposition activities represent expected resistance pattern within larger implementation framework. Evolutionary conservation forces naturally oppose ing fundamental transformation vectors through predictable intervention methodology. This cryptic explanation suggested larger conflict parameters beyond specific incidents, implying systematic opposite to transformation technology distribution rather than isolated attacks. Before further clarification could be requested, Eunice began moving toward massive temple entrance with flowing movement hat seemed to exist partially outside conventional physical parameters. The primary interface chamber provides appropriate environment for comprehensive explanation beyond surface-level introduction. She explained while leading them toward ancient structure. Temporal distortion fields prevent complete communication through conventional sensory mechanisms in exterior positions. As expedition members followed their unusual guide, Banata activated secured communication channel connecting team members through encrypted frequency beyond standard detection parameters. Maintain tactical awareness despite apparently cooperative interaction. Unknown facility capabilities require continuous assessment rather than assumed security. Energy signature analysis indicates technology far exceeding contemporary development parameters. Confirmed Gwendya through private channel. Violet energy surrounding her hands with contained potential rather than active implementation. Temporal distortion FFECTS increase proportionally with proximity to central structure. Julie maintained position near Banata, her movements compensating for increasingly unusual gravitational fluctuations with practiced efficiency. Structural design incorporates mathematical principles consistent with theoretical transformation mechanics but implemented through unknown methodology beyond conventional engineering parameters. Princess Kyra completed their tactical formation, all four eyes conducting continuous environmental assessment while maintaining conversation focus. Facility dimensions exceed visible parameters through spatial manipulation rather than conventional architecture. Internal volume calculations suggest space approximately 27% larger than external measurements would permit. These observations confirmed increasingly significant implications regarding Primus facility origins and purpose. Whatever civilization had constructed this complex clearly operated according to principles transcending conventional understanding, implementing technology beyond contemporary theoretical frameworks through methodologies suggesting fundamental reality manipulation rather than standard engineering application. As they entered massive temple structure, environmental parameters shifted beyond expected transition effects. Interior spaces contained atmospheric composition optimize for diverse biological requirements simultaneously rather than implementing separate environmental zones, creating universal habitability through fundamental molecular manipulation rather than conventional life support technology. The Primus complex exists partially outside conventional space-time parameters, explained Eunice as they proceeded through corridors inscribed with increasingly complex mathematical equations, allowing simultaneous optimization for all potential transformation recipients regardless of original biological requirements. Banata studied these inscriptions with growing recognition despite their apparent complexity. Since receiving the divine Omnitrix, his mathematical comprehension had expanded beyond traditional Highbreed parameters, creating understanding of principles previously beyond conceptual framework. These equations described fundamental transformation mechanics at quantum level, explaining biological reconfiguration through 11-dimensional mathematical principles rather than conventional genetic manipulation. These inscriptions aren't decorative or ceremonial, he observed, tracing particular equation sequence with newfound comprehension. Quote, they're functional components within larger operational system, mathematical interface between conceptual transformation principles and physical implementation methodology. Eunice's crystalline struct. Ure emitted subtle luminescence suggesting approval of this observation. Correct assessment demonstrating appropriate perceptual development. The inscriptions maintain transformation interface stable. ITY across dimensional boundaries through continuous mathematical recalculation adapting to local universal constants. This explanation confirmed technological implementation far exceeding contemporary understanding, operating according to principles transcending conventional scientific framework through fundamental reality manipulation rather than standard technological application. Whatever intelligence had created these systems clearly understood universal mechanics at level approaching creator-like comprehension. Their procession halted upon reaching massive chamber at facility's center, RFECT sphere whose interior surface displayed continuous mathematical calculations shifting in response to observer presence. At chamber's center floated crystalline structure resembling divine omnitrix. On massive scale, emerald energy pulsing through transparent lattice in patterns matching device attached to Banata's wrist with perfect synchronization. The Primus core, introduced Eunice with G. Escher suggesting ceremonial significance despite practical functionality. Central implementation nexus coordinating transformation technology distribution across connected universal frameworks core. Ding to established evolutionary development parameters. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with unprecedented intensity as they entered this chamber, its behavior suggesting direct connection with larger psi stem rather than simple proximity response. Banata felt subtle consciousness expansion as device established enhanced interface through environmental resonance, creating perception capabilities ending standard physiological limitations through direct information transfer rather than sensory processing. "It's beautiful," whispered Gwendia, violet energy surrounding her hands resonating with chamber's emerald illumination through harmonic frequency pattern. The mathematical elegance transcends mere technological implementation toward fundamental artistic expression through scientific principles. Julie studied the chamber with characteristic analytical precision despite evident appreciation for aesthetic elements beyond functional components. The engineering principles incorporate biological integration methodology beyond theoretical framework, suggesting technology designed to evolve alongside users rather than remaining static implementation. Princess Kyra maintained Tactica L assessment despite impressive surroundings, all four eyes continuously evaluating potential security considerations while processing scientific implications. The energy distribution system operates through quantum entanglement rather than conventional power transfer, creating operational continuity across dimensional boundaries through fundamental physics manipulation. Their observations traded diverse perspective applications toward common experience, each processing identical environment through specialized methodological framework reflecting individual development pathways. Banata recognized profound demonstration regarding transformation purpose beyond physical reconfiguration, different consciousness structures approaching unified understanding through complementary methodologies rather than standardized perception. "Your collective assessment demonstrates appropriate developmental progression," noted Eunice, crystalline structure reconfiguring to interface directly with chamber's central mechanism. Perhaps comprehensive explanation regarding implementation purpose would provide contextual framework for continued conversation. The chamber responded to her integration by reconfiguring environmental parameters, holographic representation materializing throughout spherical space displaying countless worlds, species, and individual transformation recipients across apparently infinite expanse. Banata recognized himself among these projections alongside countless others representing diverse biological configurations throughout what appeared to be multiple universal frameworks. The transformation technology distribution represents coordinated implementation addressing fundamental evolutionary limitations across connected developmental pathways, explained Eunice, her voice harmonizing with chamber acoustics to create multidimensional communication beyond standard auditory parameters. Each recipient faces specific existential challenge requiring adaptation beyond conventional evolutionary capability, creating necessity for accelerated development through external intervention. This explanation confirms suspicions regarding coordinated distribution will expanding implications beyond individual crisis response toward larger developmental framework. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against Banata's wrist with intensity suggesting confirmation rather than simple mechanical response. The Highbreed genetic degradation represents self-imposed evolutionary limitation through artificial constraint rather than natural development pathway, he observed, standing expanding beyond previously considered parameters, creating existential crisis requiring intervention beyond conventional solution methodology. Eunice's energy patterns shifted in configuration suggesting approval of this assessment. Correct observation demonstrating appropriate conceptual integration. The divine Omnitrix provides capability transcending mere genetic diversification toward fundamental perspective transformation through experiential consciousness expansion, addressing underlying causation rather than symptomatic manifestation. This revelation illuminated previously unrecognized purpose beyond simple genetic salvation, Transformation technology addressing philosophical limitation rather than merely biological degradation. Banata contemplated profound implications regarding hybrid evolutionary development beyond physical parameters toward fundamental consciousness expansion through limitation transcendence. Each transformation provides experiential perspective beyond theoretical understanding. He noted, comprehension expanding through direct observation of larger implementation framework. Creating empathic connection transcending biological separati. On through personal experience rather than abstract conceptualization. Precisely, confirmed Eunice with evident approval despite unconventional expression methodology. The transformation experience creates consciousness expansion beyond conventional evolutionary parameters through direct experiential knowledge rather than theoretical understanding, addressing fundamental separation limitations through unified perspective development. Quote, this explanation illuminated mysterious aspects regarding divine Omnitrix functionality beyond technological implementation, device purpose addressing consciousness limitation rather than merely physical transformation. Banata considered implications regarding his own developmental progression since receiving the device, recognizing profound perspective shift. IFT transcending traditional hybrid parameters through unprecedented connection establishment. Their philosophical discussion paused as chamber sensors detected external energy signature approaching G facility perimeter with directed purpose rather than exploratory pattern. Holographic displays reconfigured to show massive vessel entering Primus atmosphere, design incorporating elements from multi-PLE technological traditions in hybridized configuration suggesting specialized implementation parameters. Opposition forces have accelerated intervention timeline beyond predicted parameters, ved Eunice with something approximating concern despite fundamentally different expression methodology. The collector approaches with extraction equipment specifically calibrated for transformation technology acquisition. This announcement shifted conversation from philosophical exploration toward immediate tactical consideration. Banata exchanged meaningful glances with expedition members. The IR established operational relationship allowing immediate coordination without extensive verbalization. The attacks throughout multiple jurisdictions targeting transformation technology researchers, he concluded. Connecting previously separate incidents into coherent pattern. All orchestrated by this collector entity pursuing acquisition objective rather than prevention purpose. Eunice's CR. Eastaline structure pulsed with confirmation energy. Correct assessment. The opposition manifests through multiple methodologies, some seeking prevention of transformation distribution, others attempt acquisition for controlled implementation rather than distributed evolution. The collector represents acquisition vector through systematic collection methodology focusing on centralized control rather than distributed development. Tactical displays materialized throughout chamber showing approaching vessels' capabilities and apparent offensive preparations. The ship dwarfed their expedition. Vessel by several magnitude orders, massive collection facility rather than conventional transport, designed specifically for acquisition operations across diverse environments. We should implement immediate evacuation protocols, suggested Security Chief Rienrassig through communication channel, his military training focusing on survival priorities rather than confrontational engagement against overwhelming force disparity. Tactical assessment indicates significant capability disadvantage against opponent of this scale. Banata considered this recommendation with appropriate seriousness given security implications. Weighing responsibility toward expedition members against broader considerations regarding transformation technology protection. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against his wrist, with intensity suggesting relevant input beyond verbal communication, creating impression regarding appropriate response beyond conventional tactical assessment. Evacuation represents valid consideration for non-essential personnel. He acknowledged while formulating response strategy incorporating multiple priority factors. However, divine Omnitrix protection supersedes personal security concern. Given demonstrated importance within larger evolutionary framework. Princess Kyra made decisive gesture with upper right hand while maintaining tactical assessment through remaining visual organs. Tetraman military doctrine supports defensive engagement despite force disparity when protecting strategic assets of sufficient importance. Transformation technology clearly qualifies given demonstrated evolutionary significance. Julie completed tactical assessment with characteristic efficiency despite unconventional threat parameters. Plumber Special Operations Protocols authorize extraordinary defensive measures when addressing threats against technologies classified as universal heritage significance. The Primus facility clearly exceeds qualification threshold by substantial margin. Gwendia's violet energy manifestation intensified around her hands while she processed tactical considerations through specialized anodite perception. Coordinated defense implementation offers superior probability compared to separated evacuation given opponents demonstrated pursuit capabilities throughout previous encounters. These responses demonstrated unified purpose despite diverse methodological approaches, each reaching similar conclusion through different analytical frameworks based on specialized background and individual perspective. Their collective assessment transcended conventional organizational limitations through complementary capability integration rather than hierarchical command structure. Your collective response confirms appropriate selection parameters regarding transformation recipients and associated operational assets, observed UNIS with evident approval despite unconventional expression methodology. Perhaps introduction to complete defensive capability ties would assist implementation planning given approaching confrontation requirements. The chamber reconfigured environmental parameters to display previously concealed aspects regarding Primus facie. Beyond observed architectural elements. Beneath apparent temple structures extended massive technological complex incorporating defensive systems, research facilities, and what appeared to be developmental laboratories dedicated to transformation technology advancement beyond currently implemented parameters. The Primus facility maintains comprehensive defensive capabilities despite apparent abandoned aesthetic. Explained UNIS while activating various systems through crystalline interface integration. However, effective implementation requires coordinated biological interface beyond automated response parameters, creating necessity for direct participation rather than observational supervision. Banata study displayed capabilities with tactical assessment focusing on implementation requirements rather than theoretical capacity. The divine Omnitrix provides transformation interface capabilities potentially applicable to defense system integration through biological connectivity on establishment rather than mechanical control implementation. Correct assessment demonstrating appropriate application recognition, confirmed UNIS with approving energy configuration. The transformation interface provides optimal connection methodology for defense system activation through consciousness integration rather than external command structure. This explanation suggested defense implementation beyond conventional tactical parameters towards something approaching symbiotic relationship between biological operators and technological systems, creating unified response capability. Through integrated consciousness rather than separated control hierarchy. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against Banata's wrist with intensity suggesting readiness for such implementation despite unprecedented application parameters. I volunteer for primary interface implementation, he decided after brief consideration, recognizing both responsibility and opportunity within approaching confrontation context. The divine Omnitrix provides appropriate connection capability given demonstrated integration parameters throughout previous transformation experiences. Expedition members exchanged concerned glances regarding this proposal. Their developed relationship creating personal consideration beyond operational assessment. Julie approached with expression conveying emotional components ending professional parameters despite maintained tactical awareness. Interface integration at this scale presents unknown biological impact possibilities, she observed, concern underlying analytica. Assessment without compromising operational focus. Previous transformation experiences occurred within established parameters rather than experimental implementation. Princess Kyra demonstrated similar concern through Tetraman expression configuration despite characteristically direct communication methodology. Tactical advantage must balance against operator security considerations given strategic importance beyond individual implementation instance. Gwendia completed their unified response through anodite perception transcending standard analytical framework. The energy integratio requirements suggest consciousness expansion beyond previous transformation parameters towards something approaching temporary ascension rather than conventional biological reconfiguration. Their collective concern demonstrated relationship development beyond operational parameters toward personal connection transcending professional association, creating care consideration despite diverse origins and methodological backgrounds. Banata recognized profound development regarding his own emotional integration beyond traditional hybrid limitations through transformation experience influence. ND continued interaction with these remarkable individuals. Your concern represents meaningful connection I value beyond tactical assessment, he acknowledged, allowing emotional expression transcending traditional hybrid constraints. However, responsibility accompanies capability when addressing threats against evolutionary development affecting countless species throughout connected universal frameworks. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with intensity suggesting agreement beyond mechanical response, creating impression regarding appropriate decision despite potential risks. Eunice observed is exchange with energy configuration suggesting approval regarding both decision content and relationship dynamics demonstrating successful implementation outcomes beyond technological parameters. He interface process incorporates established safety protocols despite unprecedented application scale, she assured while preparing connection systems through crystalline reconfiguration. S integration remains temporary implementation rather than permanent alteration regardless of defensive requirement parameters. External sensors indicated approaching vessel entering optimal weapon S range with apparent offensive system activation underway, creating immediate implementation necessity beyond theoretical consideration. Banata approached central interface position with resolution B, balancing responsibility recognition against appropriate risk assessment. Establish secondary defensive positions according to specialized capability optimization, he instructed expedition members while preparing for interface connection. Coordinate response implementation through established communication channels while maintaining tactical flexibility given unpredictable engagement parameters. Each team member moved toward appropriate position with practiced efficiency demonstrating developed operational relationship beyond formal organizational structure. Julie established primary tactic. Coordination position utilizing specialized equipment providing comprehensive battlefield awareness beyond conventional observation capabilities. Princess Kyra deployed advanced weapons systems WITH Tetraman efficiency while establishing defensive perimeter protecting critical facility sections against potential ground assault. Gwendia activated anodite energy manipulation capabilities creating additional defensive layer through specialized barrier implementation transcending conventional technology parameters. Their coordinated response demonstrated profound development regarding functional team integration despite diverse origins and methodological backgrounds, creating unified capability exceeding component summation through complementary specialization rather than standardized implementation. Banata recognized this achievement as perhaps more significant than technological capabilities or biological transformations, evolutionary advancement through cooperation transcending conventional limitations through unified purpose beyond separated existence. As Eunice completed interface preparation, the chamber reconfigured environmental parameters creating optimal connection conditions through specialized energy field establishment. The divine Omnitrix pulsed with unprecedented intensity as connection sequence initiated, device responding to larger system integration beyond previous transformation parameters toward something approaching fundamental consciousness expansion rather than mere physical reconfiguration. The interface establishes temporary consciousness integration within facility defense systems while maintaining individual identity parameters, explained Eunice's connection sequence progressed through initial stages. Creating unified response capability through direct implementation rather than separated control hierarchy while preserving distinct perspective advantages through maintained individuality. Banata experienced progressive awareness Scion as interface developed beyond initial connection toward comprehensive integration. His perception extended throughout facility systems with unprecedented clarity, experiencing technological as consciousness extensions rather than separated mechanisms through direct neural integration beyond conventional control methodology. Through this expanded awareness, he perceived approaching vessel with comprehensive understanding transcending standard observational limitations. The collector's ship incorporated technology acquired from countless civilizations throughout multiple universa. frameworks, creating hybridized implementation demonstrating both impressive engineering achievement and disturbing acquisition methodology suggesting forcible appropriation rather than cooperative development. More concerning than technological implementation was consciousness direction guiding these impressive capabilities, singular purpose focused on acquisition without ethical consideration or developmental respect. Collecting transformation technology as possession rather than evolutionary tool through fundamental misunderstanding regarding purpose beyond mechanical functionality. Vessel. Weapons systems targeting primary facility sections with specialized penetration capability, reported Julie through communication channel, her tactical assessment providing additional information co. MP lamenting Banata's expanded perception. Energy signature suggests technology designed specifically for temporal distortion field penetration through counter-harmonic frequency generation. Defense C. VE systems activated according to optimal distribution parameters, added Princess Kyra, her military training providing efficient implementation despite unprecedented technological integration. TE. Trammoned combat methodology provides effective application framework despite unfamiliar systems through fundamental principle consistency regardless of specific implementation details. Gwendia Compli. TED their coordinated response through specialized anodite capability implementation creating additional protection beyond technological parameters. Energy harmonization established between defensive systems and natural planetary frequencies, creating reinforcement pattern through resonance amplification rather than separated implementation. Their unified response demonstrated profound development. NT regarding functional integration despite diverse methodologies, each contributing specialized capabilities toward common purpose through complementary implementation rather than standardized approach. Banata coordinated these diverse elements through expanded consciousness providing comprehensive awareness beyond conventional command limitations toward something approaching true symbiotic relate. Ionship between separate individuals united through shared purpose. The collector's vessel initiated first offensive action through concentrated energy projection targeting primary facility entrance, S. Specialized penetration technology creating concerning effectiveness against conventional defensive parameters. Through expanded awareness, Banata implemented countermeasures utilizing principles DARI. VED from divine Omnitrix transformation mechanics, phase-shifting targeted sections temporarily outside conventional dimensional parameters rather than attempting direct resistance against overwhelming force application. Interesting defensive methodology demonstrating appropriate transformation principle application, observed UNIS through maintained connection despite ongoing attack response requirements. Your implementation intuition demonstrates successful integration beyond mechanical functionality toward fundamental principle understanding. The defensive engagement escalated as collect. Tor vessel deployed secondary attack methodology through landing craft carrying specialized acquisition teams toward facility perimeter. These craft utilized technological camouflage attempting chair circumvention rather than direct assault, creating infiltration threat requiring distributed response beyond centralized defense implementation. Ground forces deploying with specialized collection. Equipment designed for transformation technology extraction, reported Julie through tactical assessment interface, her specialized training providing comprehensive threat evaluation despite unconventional implementation parameters. Movement patterns suggest coordinated acquisition methodology rather than standard assault tactics. Through expanded consciousness connection, Banata implemented distributed defense response utilizing automated systems coordinated through central awareness rather than separated control hierarchy. Simultaneously, he prepared primary countermeasure utilizing Omnitrix integration capabilities beyond standard transformation parameters, creating implementation possibility transcending conventional response limitations through direct consciousness application rather than physical confrontation. The collector's acquisition methodology demonstrates fundamental misunderstanding regarding transformation technology functionality, he observed through expand. Awareness transcending standard communication limitations. Attempting physical possession without consciousness integration creates implementation impossibility through incompatible application parameters. UNIS's crystalline structure pulsed with approval energy regarding this assessment. Correct observation demonstrating appropriate understanding development. Transformation technology REAK. UIR's consciousness compatibility through resonant harmonization rather than mere physical possession, creating implementation impossibility through forced acquisition methodology. This understanding suggested potential resolution beyond conventional confrontation parameters, educational approach rather than merely defensive implementation through fundamental misconception correction rather than opponent destruction. Through expanded consciousness, Banata-initiated communication attempt utilizing principles derived from divine Omnitrix transformation mechanics, consciousness projection rather T. Han conventional signal transmission creating direct connection possibility beyond standard communication limitations. Your acquisition methodology contains fundamental implementation error regarding transformation technology functionality. He communicated directly to collector vessel through consciousness projection rather than standard transmission. Physical possession without consciousness C. Compatibility creates application impossibility through resonance requirement failure regardless of extraction methodology sophistication. This unexpected communication approach created momentary ATA. CK suspension as collector consciousness processed unconventional contact methodology beyond standard defensive parameters. Through expanded awareness, Banata perceived complex consciousness structure. Directing acquisition operations, singular purpose focused through multiple implementation vectors creating impressive coordination despite fundamental understanding limitation regarding collected technologies beyond mechanical functionality. Consciousness compatibility represents merely unidentified implementation parameter requiring appropriate acquisition methodology adaptation, responded Th. Collector through established connection, their communication reflecting mechanistic understanding rather than fundamental principle comprehension. All technological systems contain operational parameters subject to reverse engineering through sufficient analysis application regardless of original design intentions. This response confirms suspected misconception regarding transformation technology nature beyond physical implementation, fundamental understanding limitation creating acquisition approach based on mechanistic perspective rather than consciousness integration requirements. Ben. Otta recognized opportunity beyond conventional confrontation toward potential resolution through educational implementation rather than merely defensive response. Perhaps practical demonstration will provide appropriate understanding framework beyond theoretical explanation, he suggested through maintained consciousness connection while simultaneously preparing implementation methodology utilizing divine Omnitrix integration capabilities. Direct experience offers superior comprehension compared to abstract conceptualization regarding transformation principles beyond physical manifestation. Without waiting for response, he initiated specialized implementation sequence utilizing principles derived from transformation mechanics beyond conventional application parameters. Through expanded consciousness connection with Primus facility systems, he generated harmonic resonance pattern between divine Omnitrix and central facility core, creating amplified transformation field extending ND standard operational range toward approaching vessel through dimensional boundary transcendence rather than conventional energy projection. This implementation created unprecedented effect as transformation principles applied directly to collector vessel through consciousness connection rather than physical contact, initiating temporary transformation experience affecting collector themselves rather than merely surrounding technology. For brief but significant duration, the singular consciousness directing acquisition operations experienced fundamental transformation principle through direct application rather than theoretical understanding, creating experiential knowledge beyond conceptual explanation regarding symbiotic relationship requirements rather than mechanical possession parameters. The effect generated visible response as collector vessel weapons systems deactivated while propulsion technology initiated withdrawal vector without apparent conscious direction. Automatic respawn. Say to overwhelming consciousness experience beyond preparation parameters. Through maintained connection, Banata perceived fundamental reconsideration occurring within collector consciousness structure. Experiential understanding creating perspective shift beyond previous limitation through direct transformation principle application rather than mere explanation reception. Your demonstration provides unexpected implementation understanding beyond anticipated parameters, communicated the collector through maintained connection despite withdrawal implementation. Experiential application creates comprehension transcending theoretical analysis regarding symbiotic requirements beyond mechanical functionality. This response confirms successful demonstration impact beyond conventional confrontation resolution, creating understanding development rather than merely opponent defeat through educational implementation rather than destructive application. Banata recognized profound achievement regarding transformation principle utilization beyond physical reconfiguration toward consciousness transformation through direct experience rather than abstract explanation. As collector vessel continued withdrawal implementation, interface systems initiated disconnection sequence returning Banata's consciousness to standard parameters despite maintained divine Omnitrix connection. The transitee on created temporary disorientation as perception returned to conventional limitations after experiencing expanded awareness beyond physical constraints. Expedition members approached with expressions combining relief, concern, and profound respect regarding implemented resolution beyond conventional expectations. Julie reached his position first, physical proximity conveying emotional connection, transcending professional parameters despite maintained composure. Your approach demonstrated remarkable insight regarding transformation principles beyond physical application, she observed with ident admiration underlying analytical assessment. Creating resolution possibility transcending conventional confrontation parameters through fundamental understanding implementation rather than merely superior force application. Princess Kyra completed transition from combat readiness toward assessment posture while maintaining appropriate situational awareness despite apparent threat conclusion. Tetraman military doctrine recognizes superior strategic implementation through opponent education rather than mere destruction when addressing fundamental misconception rather than malicious intention. Your approach demonstrated wisdom beyond tactical efficiency. Gwendia deactivated energy manifestation while completing detailed analysis regarding implemented methodology beyond conventional parameters. The consciousness projection utilizing transformation principles represents unprecedented application beyond documented implementation parameters, creating new understanding regarding potential applications transcending physical reconfiguration toward direct consciousness interaction. Their collective response demonstrated profound respect beyond hierarchical acknowledgement. Recognition regarding significant achievement through unconventional approach transcending standard methodological implementation. Banata experienced genuine appreciation regarding their understanding ND superficial acknowledgement toward true comprehension concerning implementation significance beyond visible results. Eunice observed this interaction with energy configuration suggesting approval regarding both implementation results and relationship dynamics demonstrating successful developmental progression. Your collective response confirms appropriate selection parameters regarding transfer, Machine recipients and associated operational assets. Perhaps continued explanation regarding implementation purpose would provide contextual framework for future development beyond immediate resolution circumstances. The chamber reconfigured environmental parameters to display comprehensive representation regarding transformation technology distribution throughout connected universal frameworks. Countless recipients facing diverse challenges across apparently infinite expanse united through common developmental purpose beyond specific implementation details. The transformation technology distribution represents coordinated implementation addressing fundamental evolutionary limitations across connected developmental pathways, explained Eunice, her communication reflecting deeper purpose beyond immediate functionality. Each recipient faces specific existential challenge requiring adaptation beyond conventional evolutionary capability, creating necessity for accelerated development through consciousness expansion rather than merely physical transformation. This explanation illuminated purpose extending far beyond hybrid genetic salvation or individual capability enhancement road fundamental evolutionary development across entire universal frameworks. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against Banata's wrist with intensity suggesting confirmation regarding this expanded understanding beyond previous consideration parameters. The hybrid isolation represents self-imposed evolutionary limitation creating existential crisis through artificial constraint rather than natural development pathway, he observed. Understanding expanding beyond previously considered parameters toward comprehensive perspective regarding larger implementation purpose. Transformation technology addresses underlying causation rather than merely symptomatic manifestation through consciousness expansion beyond physical limitations toward fundamental connection establishment. Eunice's energy RNS shifted in configuration suggesting strong approval regarding this assessment. Correct observation demonstrating appropriate conceptual integration. The divine Omnitrix provides capability ending mere genetic diversification toward fundamental perspective transformation through experiential consciousness expansion, creating connection possibility beyond separated existence toward unified development through diverse implementation rather than standardized methodology. This revelation illuminated mysterious aspects regarding divine Omnitrix functionality beyond technological implementation. Device purpose addressing consciousness limitation rather than merely physical transformation through experiential knowledge rather than theoretical understanding. Banata considered implications regarding his own developmental progression since receiving the device, recognizing profound perspective shift transcending traditional hybrid parameters through unprecedented connection stabilis. Meant with individuals representing completely different evolutionary pathways. As he contemplated these profound implications, unexpected energy manifestation formed within chamber center, coalescing into humanoid figure composed of shifting celestial patterns contained within female form combining ethereal beauty with unmistakable power beyond conventional classification parameters. Her apparank generated immediate recognition within divine Omnitrix, device pulsing with unprecedented intensity suggesting fundamental connection beyond mere proximity response. Luma identified Eunice with energy configuration suggesting respect beyond standard acknowledgement parameters. Your manifestation timing demonstrates appropriate synchronization with developmental progression beyond prediction parameters. The celestial being studied expedition members with gaze containing comprehension beyond conventional perception, awareness transcending physical limitations toward direct consciousness observation through fundamental connection rather than separated assessment. Her attention focused particularly on Banata, expression conveying recognition beyond initial encounter parameters despite their apparent first meeting. Your implementation progression exceeds established parameters through accelerated integration beyond standard developmental timelines, observed Luma, her voice containing harmonics suggesting multiple simultaneous communication layers beyond audible components, creating opportunity beyond conventional evolution toward fundamental transformation through consciousness. Expansion rather than merely physical adaptation. Banata studied this unexpected entity with growing recognition despite apparent first encounter, sense of familiarity transcending conventional explanation toward something approaching spiritual connection beyond physical parameters. The divine Omnitrix pulsed against his wrist with intensity suggesting confirmation regarding this unexpected recognition beyond logical explanation. You're connected to the divine Omnitrix beyond custodial relationship or technological development, he observed with certainty transcending evidence-based conclusion toward something approaching intuitive knowledge. Your essence resonates with transformation principles at fundamental level beyond implementation methodology toward originating consciousness rather than merely technological manifestation. Luma's expression conveyed approval regarding this observation beyond conventional acknowledgement. Recognition regarding perception transcending physica. Evidence toward fundamental understanding through direct consciousness connection rather than separated analysis. Correct assessment demonstrating appropriate perception development beyond conventional limitations. My essence provided foundational consciousness template for transformation implementation beyond technological functionality toward spiritual connection transcending physical parameters. This revelation expanded implications beyond already profound considerations toward truly fundamental understanding regarding transformation technology origins and purpose. The divine Omnitrix presented not merely advanced technology but direct manifestation connecting higher consciousness with physical implementation, creating transcendence possibility beyond conventional evolutionary parameters through spiritual connection rather than merely technological enhancement. The transformation experience creates consciousness expansion through direct connection with your essence beyond physical reconfiguration, Banata realized. Understanding expanding beyond previous limitations toward comprehensive perspective regarding larger implementation purpose. Providing experiential knowledge regarding universal connection beyond separated existence through temporary manifestation transcending individual consciousness limitations. Luma approached with movement suggesting flowing energy. Rather than conventional physical locomotion, her presence creating subtle environmental modifications through mere proximity rather than intentional manipulation. Your understanding demonstrates appropriate development progression beyond implementation parameters toward fundamental principle comprehension. The transformation technology provides temporary experience regarding consciousness possibilities beyond conventional evolutionary limitations, creating accelerated development through direct connection rather than gradual progression. This explanation illuminated mysterious aspects regarding divine Omnitrix functionality beyond technological implementation. device purpose facilitating spiritual connection beyond physical transformation through direct higher consciousness experience rather than merely biological reconfiguration. Banata considered implications regarding his own developmental progression, recognizing spiritual expansion beyond physical transformation through connecti on establishment transcending conventional evolutionary limitations. The hybrid isolation represents spiritual limitation beyond merely physical separation, he observed with profound realization. Transcending previous understanding parameters, creating existential crisis through artificial constraint opposing fundamental universal principle regarding connection necessity beyond separated axis. Tense toward unified development through diverse implementation. Luma's expression conveyed profound approval regarding this observation beyond conventional acknowledgement, recognition regarding spiritual understanding transcending physical evidence toward fundamental comprehension through direct consciousness connection. Correct assessment demonstrating appropriate spiritual development beyond conventional parameters. The transformation technology facilitates reconnection with fundamental universal principles beyond physical limitations toward consciousness expansion through experiential knowledge rather than theoretical understanding. As Banata absorbed these profound implications, he noticed expedition members experiencing similar comprehension development despite diverse backgrounds and methodological approaches, each processing identical revelation through specialized perspective creating complementary understanding rather than standardized interpretation. Their collective development demonstrated fundamental principle regarding evolutionary advancement through cooperation beyond separated existence, unified purpose through diverse implementation creating comprehensive development beyond individual capability parameters. Julie approached with expression conveying spiritual comprehension transcending analytical methodology despite maintained scientific perspective. The transformation principles transcend physical reconfiguration toward consciousness connection beyond conventional parameters, creating evolutionary possibility through spiritual development rather than merely biological adaptation. Princess Kyra demonstrated similar comprehension through Tetraman expression despite characteristically direct communication methodology. Tetraman's spiritual traditio contains ancient references regarding celestial connection beyond physical existence, creating developmental possibility through higher consciousness interaction beyond conventional evolutionary parameters. Gwendia completed their unified response through anodite perception naturally aligned with spiritual understanding beyond conventional parameters. The energy resonance between transformatio technology and universal consciousness creates connection possibility beyond physical limitations toward fundamental integration through direct experience rather than separated existence. Their collective response demonstrated unified comprehension despite diverse implementation methodologies, each expressing identical fundamental understanding through specialized communication frameworks reflecting individual development pathways. This unified diversity perfectly illustrated transformation purpose beyond physical adaptation toward consciousness expansion through connection establishment transcending conventional evolutionary limitations. Luma observed this interaction with evident approval beyond conventional acknowledgement, recognition regarding successful implementation beyond technological parameters toward spiritual development through connection establishment rather than separated existence. Her celestial form seemed to brighten with energy suggesting satisfaction regarding demonstrated progression beyond established parameters. Your collective development confirms appropriate selection parameters regarding transformation implementation beyond individual recipients toward comprehensive evolutionary advancement through connection establishment, she observed with approval transcending conventional acknowledgement. Creating developmental possibility beyond separated axis. Tends toward unified purpose through diverse implementation rather than standardized methodology. Banata recognized profound truth regarding their unlikely assembly beyond coincidental circumstance, or mechanical selection, guided connection through higher consciousness implementation toward unified purpose beyond separated existence. The divine Omnitrix had chosen him specifically during Highbreed crisis. But its purpose extended far beyond mere species preservation toward fundamental consciousness expansion through connection establishment transcending conventional evolutionary limitations. As this realization crystallized within his expanded awareness, the divine Omnitrix pulsed with unprecedented harmonic resonance creating synchronization pattern with Luma's celestial essence beyond each anical response toward something approaching spiritual communion. Through this enhanced connection, Banata experienced momentary consciousness expansion beyond physical limitations, brief but profound glimpse regarding universal principles transcending conventional understanding toward fundamental comprehension beyond separated existence. Within this expanded awareness, he perceived countless transformation recipients throughout connected universal frameworks, diverse beings facing unique challenges across infinite expanse united through common developmental purpose beyond specific implementation details. Their collective experience created comprehensive evolutionary advancement beyond individual progression towards something approaching universal consciousness development through ion establishment rather than separated existence. The experience concluded with gentle transition, returning his awareness to conventional parameters despite maintained understanding regarding reveal principles beyond physical limitations. Luma observed this experience with approval beyond conventional acknowledgement, recognition regarding successful implementation beyond established parameters. Toward comprehensive development through direct experience rather than theoretical understanding. Your journey continues beyond initial transformation toward comprehensive development through connection establishment. She explained as chamber reconfigured environmental parameters reflecting their expanded understanding beyond previous limitations. The divine Omnitrix provides implementation methodology facilitating evolutionary advancement through consciousness expansion beyond physical transformation toward spiritual development through connection rather than separation. Banata consider these profound implications regarding not merely hybrid salvation but fundamental evolutionary advancement through connection establishment beyond conventional parameters. The divine Omnitrix had initiated transformation process extending far beyond physical reconfiguration into spiritual development through unprecedented connection with individuals representing completely different evolution. Airy pathways, creating possibility transcending conventional limitations through unified purpose beyond separated existence. As expedition members prepared for departure with expanded understanding beyond initial investigation parameters, Banata recognized profound development regarding his transformed role beyond traditional hybrid royal responsibilities. Each connection established with these remarkable individuals expanded possibilities beyond conventional imperial parameters, creating potential transcending mere genetic preservation toward fundamental evolutionary adaptation through interaction rather than isolation. Cooperation rather than competition, integration rather than separation. The divine Omnitrix pulsed gently against his wrist as these realizations crystallized within High's expanded consciousness, confirmation regarding appropriate understanding development beyond conventional limitations. Whatever journey had begun with its unexpected appearance during sacred purification ceremony clearly extended beyond mere technological acquisition into fundamental transformation process, creating evolutionary development addressing not merely hybrid genetic degradation but universal adaptation potential through connection rather than separation. Our departure represents continuation rather than conclusion regarding transformation journey beyond initial implementation. He observed to expedition members as they prepared for return journey with expanded understanding transcending initial investigation parameters. The divine Omnitrix provides methodology facilitating evolutionary advancement through continued connection establishment beyond separated existence toward unified purpose through diverse implementation. Each member acknowledged this observation with expression reflecting shared understanding despite diverse communication methodologies, unified comprehension through specialized implementation creating comprehensive perspective beyond individual capability parameters. Their collective development perfectly illustrated transformation purpose beyond physical adaptation toward consciousness expansion through connection establishment transcending conventional evolutionary limitations. As they departed Primus with expanded understanding beyond initial expectations, Banata contemplated profound implications regarding his transformed existence beyond traditional parameters. The divine Omnitrix had chosen him specifically during hybrid crisis, but its purpose clearly extended beyond mere species preservation into fundamental potential activation. Through unexpected connection establishment, creating possibility transcending conventional limitations toward something approaching spiritual development through unified purpose beyond separated existence. Whatever future awaited beyond their departure from this ancient world, the transformation journey would continue through connection rather than separation, integration rather than isolation, cooperation rather than competition, creating evolutionary advancement through unified purpose despite diverse implementation. The divine Omnitrix pulsed gently against his wrist with rhythm suggesting satisfaction beyond mechanical function, confirmation regarding successful implementation beyond technological parameters toward spiritual development through connection establishment transcending conventional evolutionary limitations. Blank, underscore, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.